Hey guys, tonight we're going to do something a little different. We are not just going to learn about a moment in history. We are going to step into it. Specifically, you are about to become a Roman gladiator. Now, do not get too excited. The version of this life you have seen in movies is, to put it mildly, a lie. You are not a hero on a quest for vengeance. Not yet anyway. You are just property. A commodity purchased for a brutal and very specific purpose. And frankly, your chances of surviving the first few weeks are, let us just say, not great. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It is a small thing, but it helps this little corner of the internet feel a bit more like a community. And while you are at it, drop me a comment and let me know what city you are in, and what time it is for you. It is always fascinating to see where everyone is tuning in from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let us ease into tonight's journey together. The jolting of the cart finally stops. For days, you have been chained in the back of this thing with a handful of other men, all of you wearing the same sullen, dusty expression. The air is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies and fear. The canvas flap is thrown back, and blinding, white-hot sunlight floods in, forcing you to squint. A rough hand grabs your arm and yanks you out. You stumble, your legs stiffened clumsy, and land on your feet in a cloud of yellow dust. Before you stands your new home. It is not a palace, and it is certainly not the gleaming marble edifice you might imagine from epic films. It is a fortress. The walls are high, built from rough-hewn stone and timber, with no windows to the outside world, save for a few slits near the top that seem more for archers than for light. There is one entrance, a massive, iron-banded wooden gate, currently shut. It looks less like a school and more like a place designed to keep people in, which, of course, is exactly what it is. This is a ludus, a gladiatorial school. The word itself sounds almost playful, like a game, but the reality looming in front of you is anything but. This is a privately owned enterprise, a place of business where the product is violence and the assets are men like you. You are a prisoner of war, a condemned criminal, an unfortunate soul who fell into massive debt. It does not matter anymore. Your past has been erased. Your future is this compound, with a groan of protesting wooden scraping metal. The great gate swings inward. Two men stand there, arms crossed. They are not soldiers in legionary armor. Their chests are bare, scarred, and their faces are set in a permanent expression of grim indifference. They look you and the other new arrivals up and down, their eyes lingering, but it is not a human gaze. It is the look a butcher gives a side of beef, calculating weight and potential. You are shoved forward, across the threshold, as you step from the dusty road onto the hard-packed earth of the courtyard. A new world of sensation washes over you. The first thing that hits you is the smell. It is a unique, pungent cocktail that will soon become the scent of your entire existence. There is the sour, sharp tang of old sweat, the damp, earthy smell of the ground, and the faint, coppery scent of blood that never quite washes away. Mixed in is the aroma of hot metal from a nearby forge. Strangely, a clean, herbal scent, like some kind of liniment or medicine. It is the smell of pain, effort, and grim maintenance. The gate clangs shut behind you. The sound is heavy, final. It echoes off the stone walls. A full stop at the end of the sentence that was your former life. You are now inside. The courtyard is vast, a wide, open square of sand under the punishing sun. In the center stands a single, thick wooden post, about the height of a man, deeply scarred with countless cuts and nicks. This, you will soon learn, is the palus, the fundamental training tool for every gladiator. Around the perimeter of the yard are long, low buildings, the barracks, the armory, the kitchens, the infirmary. It is a self-contained, inescapable world. Other men are here, dozens of them. Some are exercising, their bodies gleaming with sweat as they swing wooden swords in a hypnotic, repetitive rhythm. Others are leaning against the walls, watching your pathetic little group of newcomers with expressions ranging from mild curiosity to open contempt. You see faces of all kinds. Gauls, Thracians, Dacians, men from every corner of the vast Roman Empire, all brought here for the same purpose. You are just the latest delivery. Historians still debate just how standardized these schools were. The grand Ludus Magnus in Rome, with its own mini arena under direct tunnel to the Colosseum, was the peak of gladiatorial infrastructure. But provincial schools like this one, scattered across the empire, likely varied a great deal in their layout, their funding, and their level of brutality. For all you know, this could be a top-tier facility or a backwater hellhole. It will probably feel like the latter regardless. Your arrival is an unevent for the residents. It is just another Tuesday. The monotonous thwack, thwack, thwack of wood hitting wood is the only soundtrack to your introduction. A grim metronome, counting out the seconds of your new life. The dull thud of the closing gates still seems to hang in the air as you and the other newcomers are prodded into a ragged line. The men who weren't reigning barely pause, their movements economical and practiced. They have seen this a dozen times before. You are scenery. You are inventory. The trainers, the scarred, indifferent men who greeted you, circle your group, their eyes sharp and critical. One of them pokes a man next to you in the ribs with a wooden rod. Hard. The man grunts but does not dare react. This is a test of temperament as much as anything else. Then, a figure emerges from the largest of the buildings, the one that looks like a main house. He is not like the others. He is not a mountain of muscle, nor is he clad in any kind of armor. He is a man of middle age, his body softened by a life without hard labor, his tunic made of a finer linen than anyone else's. He moves with an unhurried, proprietary air, as if every grain of sand in this courtyard belongs to him, which, in a way, it does. This is the honest day, the owner, the master. He is the man who bought you. He might be an ex-gladiator who scraped together enough winnings to buy his own school, a grim poacher turned gamekeeper, or he could be a shrewd businessman who saw a lucrative, if socially scorned, market opportunity. The Roman elite looked down on Lanuste, viewing them as little more than pimps trading in flesh and death. Yet, they were the indispensable cogs in the machine of the games, the men who procured and prepared the stars of the show. He stops before your line and looks you over. His expression is not one of cruelty or malice. It is far more unsettling than that. It is the calm, appraising look of a livestock trader examining a new batch of oxen. He is doing math in his head. How much did I pay for this one? How much will it cost to feed and train him? What are the odds of a return on my investment? His gaze falls on you for a moment, and you feel an involuntary chill despite the heat. You are a column in his ledger, nothing more. Finally, he speaks. His voice is not loud, but it cuts through the air with absolute authority. You belong to me now, he says, his tone flat and conversational. Your life, as you know it, is over. Forget your names. Forget your homes. Here, you have one purpose, to learn how to fight. You will eat what I give you, sleep where I tell you, and train until your bones ache. He pauses, letting the words sink in. There is no room for misunderstanding. Do as you are told, and you may find a life you never imagined. You could become famous, rich. Women will desire you. Men will envy you. Survive long enough. Prove your worth in the arena, and you might one day earn the rudies. Your freedom. He gestures vaguely towards one of the trainers, a man whose face is a roadmap of old wounds. Like him. Then his tone hardens just a fraction. Defy me, and you will suffer. Try to escape, and you will be caught. And when you are, you will wish for a quick death in the arena. That is a mercy you will not receive from me. Here, your only hope is obedience. Your only path forward is through the sand. This is the grim contract of the ludus. And here is a strange little detail of the business. The honest A does not just sell you. He rents you out. When a politician or a wealthy citizen, an editor, wants to sponsor games, they come to a honest A like this one. They negotiate a price for his gladiators. There was often a two-tiered pricing system. The lower price was for a gladiator to be returned alive, assuming they survived the fight. The higher, far more expensive price gave the editor the right to the gladiator's life. If the crowd turned their thumbs down, the honest would be compensated for his total loss. You are an asset with a complex rental agreement tied to your mortality. He does not need to say any more. The message is clear. He turns his back on you. The silent dismissal, a more powerful statement of his dominance than any threat could be. He gives a slight nod to one of the trainers, a man referred to as a doctor, or more accurately, a doctoro. This is not a medical title, though the school has medics. A doctoro is a teacher, a specialist in a particular form of combat. The trainers now move in, their demeanor all business. The honest as speech has stripped away any lingering illusions. This is not a military unit where you might find camaraderie and honor. This is a stable of fighting animals. The question of how these men were really viewed by Roman society is something historians still puzzle over. The writings of senators and poets paint them as the lowest of the low, vultures profiting from death. Yet, for the common people, a honest who produced winning, crowd-pleasing gladiators might have been a figure of grudging respect, a master of a brutal but thrilling craft. The truth of their social standing was likely a messy, uncomfortable gray area, much like everything else in this world you have just entered. The trainer grabs the man at the end of the line and shoves him toward one of the adjacent buildings. Another trainer does the same to the next man. Damn, it is your turn. A rough hand grips your shoulder. There is no malice in it, just an impersonal force guiding you toward the next stage of your processing. The brief, terrifying audience with the man who owns your very breath is over. Now, the real work begins. You are herded into a low, dark building off the main courtyard. The air inside is cooler but thick with the smell of unwashed linen and stale human sweat. This is where your old identity will be formally and systematically erased. The process is efficient and dehumanizing. One of the trainers, a man with a ledger and a piece of charcoal, stands by a rough wooden table. He does not ask for your name. He probably would not be able to pronounce it anyway. And even if he could, it does not matter. You are now a number. Or perhaps you will be given a new, gruff-sounding stage name. Something simple and intimidating, like Ursus Bear or C. R. Ixis the Gaul. Your past is irrelevant. Your new identity will be built on what you can do in the arena. The next step is to strip. You and the others are ordered to remove the filthy rags you have been wearing for weeks. There is no modesty here. You are livestock being prepared for auction. standing naked under the critical gaze of the trainers. You feel a profound sense of vulnerability. They walk around you, their eyes scanning your body, not for its humanity, but for its potential as a weapon. They are looking for old injuries that might be a liability. They are assessing your musculature, your height, your reach. They might grab your arm and feel the muscle, or force your mouth open to check your teeth, just as one would a horse. Every part of you is now an element of a business transaction. Then comes a moment of intense debate among historians. The branding. Some ancient sources, particularly those written by moralizing senators who were keen to portray the whole business as monstrous, claim that gladiators were branded like cattle. They describe hot iron stamping the mark of the ludus onto their flesh, a permanent, undeniable sign of their status as property. However, archaeological evidence for this is scarce. No skeletons of gladiators have been found with clear branding marks. This leads to a fascinating argument. Was the branding a literary exaggeration? A bit of propaganda to emphasize the gladiator's slave-like status? Or did it happen, but perhaps with tattoos instead of hot irons? Tattoos, made with vegetable dye, would not survive on a skeleton. It is also possible that it varied from school to school. A particularly cruel honeste might use a brand, while another might see it as needlessly damaging his investment. As you stand there, you do not know the historical debate. You only know the fear. A brazier glows in the corner of the room, and in it rests an iron rod with a symbol on the end, perhaps a trident, or the stylized letters of your lawn Ista's name. A trainer picks it up, the end glowing a dull, menacing reed, whether it is for you or just a tool for other purposes. Its presence in the room is enough. The message of ownership is sent. Whether or to what extent it is applied is something we are still uncertain about. For today, let us say your honeste is more pragmatic. He wants your skin intact for the arena crowds. Instead, your description is simply noted in the ledger. Height, build, distinguishing scars. You are now officially on the books. Next, you are given your new uniform. It is not armor. It is the simple, rough spun tunic of a slave. It is coarse and scratchy against your skin, but it is clean. Along with the tunic, you are given a pair of simple leather sandals. This is your entire wardrobe. You will wear this every day, washing it when you can. It further cements your new, lowly status. You are no longer a person with possessions. You are a ward of the ludus, and you will wear its livery. Finally, your hair is dealt with. Long hair can be grabbed in a fight. It is a liability. A trainer with a sharp knife unceremoniously hacks off your locks, leaving you with a short, crude haircut. It is another small act of stripping away your past. The face that looks back at you in a murky reflection from a bucket of water is becoming that of a stranger. This whole process takes less than an hour, but it is a lifetime. You entered the building as who you are, and you leave as something else. You are now a novice, a novice gladiator. You have been processed, catalogued, and uniformed. When you step back out into the courtyard, son, you are no longer just a prisoner or a debtor. You are a raw material, ready to be molded. You are shoved towards another long building, the barracks. This will be your home. Inside, it is dark and smells of high-end old sweat. Down each side of the long room are small, cell-like spaces, barely big enough for a single man. Your bed is a simple straw-stuffed mattress on a low wooden platform. There is no door, just an opening. No privacy, no comfort. It is a reflection of your new life. Functional, Spartan, and under constant supervision. You find an empty cell and sit on the edge of the hard mattress. The straw rustles beneath you. This tiny, grim space is your entire world now. Other gladiators are in their cells. Some sleeping, some sharpening wooden weapons, some just staring into space. No one welcomes you. No one even makes eye contact. The message is clear. You are on your own. You have been stripped, numbered, and filed away. The psychological dismantling is complete. Now, the physical dismantling can begin. The sun is beginning to dip lower in the sky, painting the courtyard in hues of orange and gray. The relentless whacking of wooden swords against the palus finally subsides. Training for the day is over. Eye horn blows, a single, low note that echoes off the stone walls. It is the signal for the evening meal. You feel a pang of hunger, sharp and gnawing. You have not eaten a real meal in days, subsisting on stale bread and murky water during your journey. You follow the other men as they file out of the barracks and head towards another long, low building. This one has smoke curling from a chimney in its roof. This is the mess hall. Inside, the setup is as Spartan as the barracks. Long wooden tables and benches are arranged in rows. The air is thick with the smell of boiling grain and something vaguely earthy. Like beans, there are no plates, just shallow wooden bowls. You grab one and get in line. The cooks are not chefs preparing a warrior's feast. They are slaves, like many others who work in the ludus but do not fight. They swap a single ladle FUL of a thick, grayish-brown substance into your bowl. It is a lumpy, steaming porridge. You look down at it. You can see whole grains of barley, mushy beans, and maybe some bits of unit unfightable vegetables mixed in. This is it. This is the legendary sag in a gladiator rum. The gladiator's mash. You find a space on a bench between two other men who are already eating with quiet, mechanical efficiency. You dip your fingers or a crude wooden spoon into the bowl and take your first bite. The taste is nothing. It is bland, heavy, and starchy. There is no salt to speak of, no spices, no savory flavor of meat or fat. It is purely functional fuel. Its only virtue is that it is hot and filling. You sit down, your stomach craving sustenance more than flavor. This diet is one of the most misunderstood aspects of a gladiator's life. We imagine these peak athletes feasting on roasted meats and drinking flagons of wine to build muscle. The reality was the exact opposite. Modern archaeological studies of gladiator burial sites, like the one discovered in Ephesus, have confirmed what Roman writers like Pliny the Elder wrote about. By analyzing the mineral content of the bones, specifically the high levels of strontium, scientists deduced that their diet was almost entirely vegetarian and incredibly carb-heavy. They were nicknamed hoderi, or barley men, for a reason. But why? It seems counterintuitive. Were not they supposed to be chiseled, muscular heroes? The answer is brutally pragmatic and reveals the cold calculus of the l'honnêteté. The goal was not to make you look like a statue for a magazine cover. The goal was to keep you alive and fighting. A thick layer of subcutaneous fat, built up by this carbohydrate-rich diet, served several purposes. First, it acted as a natural cushion. A shallow cut from a sword would slice through fat, not muscle. A wound that looked spectacular and bled a lot for the crowd might be superficial, not debilitating. It was a protective layer that could mean the difference between a minor injury and a career-ending one. Second, it provided a massive reserve of energy for the intense, exhausting demands of training and combat. This was not about health or pleasure. It was about durability. Your body was a machine, and the Sagane was its chief, effective fuel. As you sit there, forcing down another mouthful of the gluey mush. You realize this meal is a perfect metaphor for your new life. It is not glorious. It is not pleasant. It is grim, monotonous, and designed for survival. After the meal, there is another surprise. You are handed a cup of a strange, bitter drink. It is not water, and it is certainly not wine. It is a concoction made from wood ash and vinegar. This was another discovery from the bone analysis. The gladiators had incredibly high levels of calcium. This ash and vinegar tonic was likely a kind of mineral supplement, a primitive sports drink designed to help with bone density and recovery. It tastes awful, like drinking a campfire, but you choke it down. Your honesty is not just building a fat pad on you. He is reinforcing your very skeleton. Every part of your diet is min-maxing your body for the arena. The existence and purpose of this diet is a solid historical fact, but how gladiators felt about it is, of course, lost to time. Did they resent it? Or did they, as professional athletes, understand the functional necessity of their bland fuel? Historians can only speculate. Perhaps a new recruit like you finds it disgusting, a symbol of your fall from a normal life. But the scarred veteran sitting across from you, who has survived a dozen fights, might see it as the very thing that has kept him alive. He does not need his food to taste good. He needs it to work. As you finish your bowl, the emptiness in your stomach has been replaced by a heavy, dense feeling. You are full, but not satisfied. You file out of the mess hall with the others and back towards the darkening barracks. The sky is now a deep indigo, studded with stars. They are the same stars you looked at in your old life, but they feel different now, colder. You have been fed and watered like an animal. Tomorrow, the real training begins, fueled by this strange, tasteless barley gruel. You find your way back to your designated cell in the long, dark barracks. The other men are settling in for the night. The rustle of straw mattresses and low murmurs filling the space. There are no doors to close, no curtains to draw. Privacy is a forgotten luxury. You lie down on the rough straw pallet, the coarse fabric of your tunic scratching against your skin. This is a world of men, and like any such enclosed society, it has its own invisible, but very real, power structure. As a novicios, a new recruit, you are at the absolute bottom of the food chain. You are untested, unproven, and therefore, you are nothing. The men who have been here longer, the veterans, occupy a higher status. You can see it in the way they carry themselves, the way others give them a wide berth. They are the veteran eye. These are men who have fought in the arena and survived. Their bodies are canvases of scar tissue, each mark a testament to a battle won, or at least, not lost. They have earned the grudging respect of their peers and, more importantly, have proven themselves to be valuable assets to the Loneste. They get the better sleeping spots, slightly away from the drafts. They get the first pick of training equipment. When they speak, others listen. You will not be speaking to them. A novice does not simply walk up and start a conversation with a veteran. That would be a suicidal breach of protocol. Your interactions will be with the other new arrivals, a small, nervous cluster of nobodies, and maybe the gladiators just a rank above you, those who have finished their initial training but have not yet fought. They are the ones who might take out their own frustrations on you, reinforcing their slightly superior position by reminding you of yours. Within the ludus, gladiators were often organized into groups called familia gladiatoriae. This sounds like family, and in a twisted way, it was. These men lived together, trained together, and sometimes died together. But it was not a family of love and support. It was a pact, bound by shared circumstance and a rigid hierarchy. Loyalty was a complex and fragile thing. You might form a bond with the man you train with every day, a comrade in misery. You might even call him a friend. But you both know that one day, the Laniste could decide to pit you against each other in the arena. The system was designed to prevent alliances that could challenge the Laniste as authority. As you lie there in the dark, you begin to notice the different types of gladiators. This is where the specialization begins. The men are not a homogeneous group of sword and sandal fighters. The ludus is a school for different, deadly arts. Over, in one corner, a man is meticulously checking the links of a net. He is a gladiatorial, a net fighter. He will fight with that net, a trident, and a small dagger called a Pergamum. He wears almost no armor, just a loincloth and a metal guard on his shoulder called a galus. He relies on speed and agility. Across from him, a hulking man is polishing a large, rectangular shield. A scudum. He is likely a Sekat or a Murmillo. They are the heavily armored tanks of the arena, with big shields, visor ed helmets, and short swords. They are often pitted against the lightly armed gladiatorial in a classic matchup of speed versus power. A deadly game of cat and mouse that was a massive crowd pleaser. This specialization is a key part of the business. The Laniste and his trainers would assess a new recruit's body type and assign them a class. Adol. Quick man might become a gladiatorial. A strong, stocky man would be made into a Murmillo. This is a fascinating bit of insight into the showbiz aspect of the games. Roman audiences work on a series of violence. They did not want to see two identically armed men hacking at each other. They wanted matchups with inherent drama and strategy. They knew the strengths and weaknesses of each gladiator type. They had their favorites, just like modern sports fans have favorite teams or players. A strange bit of trivia. There were even joke or novelty gladiators. Some fought blindfolded on day bat AE, or on horseback, equites, or from chariots as dairy high. A style supposedly borrowed from the Britons. There were even female gladiators, the glad I-8 races, though they were exceptionally rare and treated as a buzz or novelty. The existence of these specialized classes is well documented, but how a novice was assigned their role is a matter of some debate among academics. Was it purely based on their physical attributes? Or did a novice have any say in the matter? The consensus leans toward the former. You did not choose your profession. Your owner chose it for you based on what he thought would be the most profitable use of your body. You are at the very beginning of this journey. You have no specialty yet. You are just a lump of clay to be molded. The veteran gladiatorial in the corner finishes with his net and lies down. The hulking Murmillo sets his shield aside. The low murmurs in the barracks die down, replaced by the sounds of sleep, snores, coughs, the occasional groan from a man dreaming of a life he once had, or a fight yet to come. The air is still and heavy. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, you are not moving, not being prodded or inspected, but even in the stillness, there is no peace. You are surrounded by men whose entire existence is dedicated to the art of killing, and soon, you will be one of them. You close your eyes, but sleep is a long way off, long before the first rays of sun pierce the gloom of the barracks. A horn blasts you from a shallow, restless sleep. There is no gentle awakening here. One moment, you are in the hazy fog of a dream. The next, you are jolted into the cold, hard reality of the ludus. The veterans are already up and moving, their routine ingrained. You scramble to your feet. Your muscles stiffen sore from the long journey and the hard pallet. There is no time for a leisurely morning. You are herded out into the prudent chill of the courtyard. The air is cold enough to see your breath. A small, fleeting cloud in the darkness. The sand under your bare feet is damp and icy. This is the start of your conditioning. Before you ever pick up a weapon, you must be broken down and rebuilt into something stronger, more resilient. The training is led by one of the doctors, a man whose physique is a testament to a lifetime of this regimen. He is lean, corded with muscle, and moves with a brutal efficiency. He does not shout. He does not need to. His presence commands absolute obedience. The workout begins, and it is relentless. You start with running. Laps around the perimeter of the vast courtyard. It is not a jog. It is a grueling, lung-searing pace. The faster men set a punishing speed, and if you fall behind, you feel the sharp sting of a trainer's rod on your back or legs. It is not a punishment meant to injure, but to motivate, to remind you that exhaustion is a luxury you cannot afford. After the running, when your legs feel like lead and your lungs are on fire, the real work begins. You are put through a series of exercises that would feel familiar to a modern athlete, yet they are cruder, stripped of any notion of safety or comfort. You do endless rounds of what we would call burpees, throwing your body down onto the cold sand and leaping back up. You lift heavy stones or logs, hoisting them onto your shoulder, carrying them across the yard, and putting them down, only to do it again, and again, and again. This is not about building bulgy, aesthetic muscles for show. This is about functional strengthened. Most importantly, endurance. A gladiatorial fight was not a 30-second affair. It could be a long, drawn-out battle of attrition, fought under a hot sun in heavy armor. The man who tired first was often the man who died. Your ability to keep fighting when every muscle screams for rest is your most vital weapon. The honest knows this. He is investing in your stamina. Here is a fascinating detail about their training that modern science is only now fully appreciating. They likely incorporated a lot of what we call plyometrics and body weight exercises. They would jump, lunge, and squat. They would practice stumbling and rolling, learning how to fall and get back up quickly without exposing themselves. This was crucial. In the chaos of the arena, you could be knocked off your feet at any moment. The ability to roll with the fall and spring back into a defensive stance could save your life. As the sun finally rises, casting long shadows across the courtyard, the conditioning phase ends. You are drenched in sweat, every muscle trembling with exhaustion. Your body aches in places you did not know you had. And this is just the warm-up. After a short break for water, you are introduced to your first true training partner. It is not another man. It is the palus. The tall, thick wooden post driven into the center of the courtyard. It stands there, silent and scarred, having absorbed millions of blows from gladiators before you. You are given your first piece of equipment, a wooden sword, the ludus, and a wicker shield. The sword is heavy, often deliberately heavier than the real steel sword you will eventually use. The theory was simple. If you can train for hours with a heavy wooden sword, a lighter steel one will feel effortless in your hand. The doctor demonstrates the basic stance. Feet apart, knees bent, shield up, sword ready. It looks simple. It is not. He then shows you the fundamental strikes. A thrust, a slash, a parry. Your job, for the next several hours, is to attack the palus. Thwack, thwack, thwack. You strike the post over and over, the sound echoing the one you heard when you first arrived. Your movements are clumsy, awkward. The heavy wooden sword feels like a club in your hand. The trainer circles you, correcting your stance with a quick shove, adjusting your grip on the sword, tapping your shield to remind you to keep it high. The monotony is mind-numbing, but it is essential. You are building muscle memory. You are learning to strike with precision and power, to move your body and your shield as one. The palus is an unforgiving teacher. It does not move, it does not tire, and it reveals every flaw in your technique. The historical accuracy of this specific training regimen is pieced together from various sources: artwork depicting gladiators' training, written descriptions, and military training manuals from the period. As the Roman army's own training methods likely influenced the ludus, however, the precise day-to-day schedule of a novice is something historians still have to reconstruct. Did they focus on conditioning for weeks before touching a weapon, or were the two integrated from day one? The latter seems more efficient and is generally the accepted view. Ale Honeste would not want to waste time and food on a man who had the stamina of a bull but no aptitude for combat. The sun is high in the sky now. Your arm feels like it is going to fall off. Your hand is cramping around the hilt of the wooden sword, but the trainer does not let you stop. Thwack, thwack, thwack. You are no longer thinking. You are just moving. Your body is being broken down. Your mind emptied of everything but the rhythm of the work. This is your life now. Dawn until dusk. The horn. The run. The stones. The palus. And tomorrow, you will wake up and do it all again. Weeks have blurred into one long, monotonous cycle of sweat, pain, and barley gruel. Your body, once soft from a life outside these walls, is changing. The fat from your previous life is melting away, replaced by hard, dense muscle forged by the relentless conditioning. Your hands are calloused and rough from gripping the wooden sword. You move with a new, albeit clumsy, economy of motion. You are being hardened, like steel in a forge. But this process is not without its costs. One morning, during a sparring drill with another novice, you twist your ankle. A sharp, searing pain shoots up your leg, and you collapse onto the sand. You cannot put any weight on it. Immediately, a trainer is there, not with sympathy, but with an expression of annoyance. You are a broken piece of equipment. Two other gladiators, on the trainer's command, haul you to your feet and help you hobble towards one of the key buildings in the compound, the infirmary. This is the domain of the medicus. Stepping inside, the smell is the first thing that hits you. It is that clean, sharp, herbal scent you noticed on your first day. A mixture of medicinal plants, vinegar, and something like boiling laundry. The room is well lit, surprisingly clean, and organized. There are shelves holding clay jars, bundles of dried herbs, and clean linen bandages. On a wooden table, an array of sinister-looking bronze and iron tools are laid out neatly. Probes, scalpels, forceps, and saws. It looks like a room of healing, but also a room of terrible pain. The man who approaches you is the medicus. He is not a gladiator. He is often a Greek, as Greeks were widely considered the best doctors in the Roman world. He is a highly skilled professional, and his presence in the ludus speaks volumes about the honesta's business acumen. A good doctor was one of the most important investments a honeste could make. The medicus examines your ankle with practiced, surprisingly gentle hands. His touch is firm but precise. He diagnoses it as a severe sprain, not a break. You are relieved. He barks an order to an assistant, who returns with a poultice of foul-smelling herbs, which is then applied to your swollen ankle and wrapped tightly with clean linen bandages. He tells you to stay off it for a few days. This level of medical care might seem surprising, Why would a society that sends men to their deaths for entertainment invest so much in keeping them healthy? The answer, again, is pure economics. You are a valuable asset. The Loniste has spent a significant sum to acquire you and will spend much more to feed and train you. To lose you to a preventable infection or a poorly treated training injury would be a foolish waste of money. The medicus is not here to alleviate your suffering out of compassion. He is here to protect the Loniste as investment. He is a mechanic for flesh and bone. The skills of these doctors were remarkable. The famous Roman physician, Galen, one of the most influential doctors in all of history, actually started his career as a medicus in a gladiator school in Pergamum. It was a brutal but unparalleled education in human anatomy, trauma, and surgery. He learned more about the inner workings of the human body by patching up gladiators than he ever could have by just reading scrolls. He became an expert in treating sword wounds, fractures, and dislocations. He understood the importance of hygiene, using wine to disinfect wounds, and developed surgical techniques that were centuries ahead of their time. Here is a quirky and slightly grim detail that underscores their skill. Roman law forbade the autopsy of human bodies, which severely hampered medical knowledge. But a gladiator with a gaping stomach wound was, for a doctor like Galen, a living anatomy lesson. He could literally see the organs functioning inside. The arena, in a twisted way, became a laboratory for medical advancement. So, the man treating your sprained ankle is part of a tradition of some of the most advanced trauma specialists in the ancient world. But there is a dark side to his presence. The medicus is also there to make the final call on an injury. If your sprain had been a bad break, one that would take too long to heal or leave you permanently impaired, he would have given a simple, cold assessment to the Loniste. In that case, you might be disposed of. The brutal truth is that a gladiator who could not fight was worthless. The line between being a patient worth healing and a commodity to be liquidated was terrifyingly thin. There is a historical debate about this very point. Some argue that because gladiators were so expensive, every effort would be made to heal them, no matter the injury. Others contend that in a world without antibiotics, where any serious wound could lead to fatal infection, a pragmatic Loniste would have cut his losses on any gladiator who suffered a grievous injury in training. The reality was likely somewhere in the middle, depending on the wealth of the Loniste and the potential value of the specific gladiator. A star champion with a broken arm would receive the best care imaginable. A clumsy novice like you with the same injury, your prognosis would be far more uncertain. For now, you are lucky. A sprain is manageable. You are given a crutch and sent back to your cell in the barracks. For the next few days, you are useless. You watch the others train. Your frustration mounting. You are falling behind, but you also have time to observe. You see the doctor's work firsthand. As other men come in with dislocated shoulders, deep gashes from blunted practice swords, and infected cuts, you see the medicus work with a calm, detached professionalism, stitching, setting, and saving men so they can return to the business of learning how to kill each other. You are a machine, and this is your repair bay. Your ankle heals, thanks to the foul-smelling poultices and infrastress. The medicus gives you a final, curt nod of approval, and you are thrown back into the relentless rhythm of the ludus. The days of watching from the sidelines are over. Now, the training intensifies. You have graduated, for now, from general conditioning to more focused, weapon-specific practice, every single day, for hours on end. Your world shrinks to a circle of sand, just a few feet in diameter. In the center of that circle is your most constant, most patient, and most important companion, the palus, the wooden post. If the ludus is your school, the palus is your primary textbook. You return to it with a new sense of purpose. The doctor, your trainer, has decided you have the build for a classic loadout. The short sword, or gladius, and a medium-sized shield. You are not yet specialized into a named gladiator type, but you are being groomed for one of the more traditional, heavily armed roles. You are given your practice gear. The wooden sword, the rudis, still feels heavy, but less alien in your hand. The wicker practice shield feels like an extension of your arm now, not a clumsy play. The trainer does not just watch you anymore. He actively instructs. The era of mindless whacking is over. Now, it is about technique. No, no, no. He barks, slapping the back of your leg with his rod. You are swinging like a farmer with an axe. This is a gladius. It is a stabbing weapon. The point is deadlier than the edge. He demonstrates. They quit. Economical. Brutal thrust. The power comes from the legs in the core, not the arm. It is a short, piston-like motion, designed to punch through armor and find the flesh beneath. A wide slash. He explains. Looks impressive but leaves you open to a counterattack. It is a rookie mistake. A theatrical move that will get you killed. So you practice. For hours. Thrust. Retract. Thrust. Retract. You aim for specific points on the palus, imagining them as the gaps in an opponent's armor. The throat. The armpit. The groin. Your shoulder burns. Your wrist aches. But you continue. The monotonous repetition is burning the movement into your very being, turning a conscious, clumsy action into a subconscious, lethal reflex. This is the core of your training. While the crowd in the arena might roar for a dramatic decapitating swing, your survival depends on this short, ugly, efficient little poke. This focus on stabbing over slashing is a well-documented piece of Roman military doctrine. The Roman legionary Gladius was primarily a thrusting weapon, and Vigarius, a late Roman writer on military affairs, wrote extensively about how recruits were trained on the palus. They were taught that a stab wound, even a shallow one, was far more likely to be fatal than a cut. The ludus simply adopted and perfected this military pragmatism for the arena. But there is more to it than just stabbing. The palus is also your defensive teacher. You learn to use your shield not just as a passive wall, but as a weapon. You practice blocking imaginary blows, angling the shield to deflect the force rather than absorb it head-on. You practice the scudumbash, a brutal shove with the shield's edge designed to unbalance your opponent and create an opening for your own attack. You also learn footwork. You circle the palus, always on the balls of your feet, never flat-footed. You practice advancing, retreating, and moving side to side without crossing your feet or losing your balance. The sand beneath you is a treacherous surface, and your ability to stay upright is paramount. You are a dancer, and the palus is your partner in a macabre waltz. Here is a small, fascinating detail that is often overlooked. The mental aspect of this training. The palus teaches you patience and focus. You cannot get angry at it. You cannot intimidate it. It is an immovable, indifferent object. It forces you to perfect your own actions, to find the flaws within yourself. It is a form of violent meditation in the screaming chaos of the arena. This ability to tune out distractions and focus on the pure mechanics of the fight, the muscle memory honed by these endless hours at the post, will be your anchor. The academic world, of course, has its debates about the palus. Was the training identical for all gladiator types? Almost certainly not. A ready Arius would spend more time practicing casting his net over the post, and a THRAX with his curved blade would have a different set of target areas. The question is how standardized the core curriculum was before specialization. Did every novice, regardless of their future role, have to master the basics on the palus with a standard rudies and shield? Most historians believed so. It provided a fundamental grammar of combat upon which the more exotic dialects could be built. As the afternoon sun beats down, you are lost in the rhythm. Your mind is empty. There is only the feel of the wooden hilt in your hand, the weight of the wicker shield on your arm, and the scarred, unyielding surface of the post. Thrust, retract, look, bash, circle left, circle right. You are no longer just a man hitting a piece of wood. You are an apprentice learning a deadly trade, and the palus is your silent, unflinching master. It is the beginning and the end of your education, the alpha and omega of your survival. The days of generalized training at the palus have forged a foundation. You are stronger, faster, and your basic movements are becoming second nature. You no longer feel like a clumsy farmer with a stick. Now, the time has come for the Launiste and his doctoress to make a crucial decision, one that will define the rest of your life, however long that may be. It is time to assign you your specialty. You and the other novices who arrived with you are gathered in the center of the courtyard. The Launiste is there, along with his senior trainers. It is like a final exam, or perhaps more accurately, a sorting ceremony. They have been watching you for months. They know your strengths, your weaknesses, your body type, and your temperament. One of the trainers steps forward. He is a massive man with a calm, deliberate demeanor. He carries a large, rectangular shield, a scuttle, and a helmet with a stylized fish crest. He is the Dr. Rowe for the MUR Millans. He looks over your group, his eyes lingering on the bigger, stocky ER men. The MUR Miller, or Fishman, is one of the iconic, heavily armored gladiators. They are the tanks, the juggernauts of the arena. Their fighting style is based on the tactics of a Roman legionary, methodical, defensive, waiting for an opening to deliver a decisive blow with the gladius. Another trainer steps forward. He is weary and quick, moving with a restless energy. He carries only a trident and a weighted net. He is the master of the ready, the net fighters. His gaze sweeps over the taller, faster, more agile novices. The ready Arius is the opposite of the MUR Milo, with almost no armor. His survival depends on speed, cunning, and his ability to ensnare his opponent. The matchup between the heavily armed MUR Milo and the nimble ready Arius was a classic, a dramatic portrayal of power versus agility that Roman crowds adored. More trainers present themselves, each representing a different deadly art form. There is the THRAX, the Thracian, with his small square shield and a distinctive short sword with a curve, griffin-headed blade. The Sika, designed to hook around an opponent's shield. There is the Hoplomachus, who fights like a Greek hoplite soldier with a spear, a dagger, and a small round shield. There are the Secutares, the Chasers, a class specifically developed to fight the ready Arius, with a smooth, featureless helmet designed to prevent snagging on the neck. You watch as the trainers select their new apprentices. Adol, lanky Gaul from your intake group, is motioned over to the ready Arius trainer. He looks terrified. A short, powerful man with the legs of a bull is chosen by the MUR Milo master. One by one, your fellow novices are sorted into their new professions. Then, the Dr. O of the THRAESIS points his curved blade at you. You. Your heart hammers in your chest. He saw something in your movements, perhaps in your build, not as large as the future Mu or Millans, but quicker. That made him decide you were suited for the Thracian style. This moment is critical. You are no longer a generic novice CIS. You are now an apprentice THRAX. Your training will become highly specialized. You will leave the generic palus training behind and move to a new area of the courtyard, with a new master and new classmates. The concept of these distinct fighting styles is one of the most historically certain things we know about gladiators. They are depicted in countless mosaics, sculptures, and even on everyday objects like oil lamps. The names, the equipment, the classic gadgets, this is all well documented. What remains a subject of intense academic debate, however, is the origin of these styles. Early on, gladiator types were based on defeated enemies of Rome. The Samnite, one of the earliest types, was equipped like the warriors from Samnium that Rome had fought. The Gaul was equipped like a Gallic warrior. They were, in effect, ritualized reenactments of Roman military victories. But a fascinating little wrinkle in history changes this. The Samnites and Gauls eventually became allies, and then citizens of Rome. It became politically awkward and disrespectful to portray them as stereotypical enemies in the arena. So, the names were changed. The Samnite was rebranded as the Secutor, and the Gaul became the Murmillo. The equipment stayed roughly the same, but the names were sanitized. The THRAX style you have just been assigned, however, kept its name, a lingering echo of Rome's conquests in Thrace. You are, in a sense, being trained to perform as a historical enemy of the state. Your new doctoral leads you and a few other newly christened THRACs to your corner of the ludus. He hands you your new tools. The shield is a parmula, much smaller than the wicker one you have been using. It feels dangerously inadequate. And then he gives you the sword. It is stalwart, but it is shaped differently. It is a sika, with that wicked curve at the end. He shows you how to hold it, how the curve can be used to get around the edge of an opponent's shield. The entire fighting philosophy is different. It is more aggressive, more mobile. You are not a legionary. You are a predator. You take your first practice swings with the curved wooden blade. It feels completely alien. All the muscle memory you have built with the straight gladius is now useless. Even a liability. You have to relearn everything. Your stance, your guard, your attack. You are a beginner all over again. Your Dr. O watches with a critical eye, his expression making it clear that you have a long, painful road ahead of you. You have been chosen. Your profession is now a deadly one, with a specific name and a specific set of tools. The real training has just begun. Your new identity as a THRAX is cemented not just by your new curved sword, but by the armor you must now learn to live in. For weeks, you have trained in nothing more than a loincloth and sandals. Your body, though hardened, has been free and unencumbered. That is about to change. One afternoon, your Dr. O decides you are ready. He leads you and your fellow Thracian apprentices to the armory. The armamentomy. It is a stone building, cool and dark inside, and it smells of metal, leather, and oil. Racks of armor line the walls, organized by gladiator type. Gleaming helmets, greaves, shields, and chest plates are arranged like monolithic insects. This is the hardware of your trade. The trainer pulls down the equipment of a THRAX. It is not the full suit of plate Mela medieval knight would wear. Gladiatorial armor was strategically minimalist, designed to protect certain body parts while deliberately leaving others exposed. This was part of the show. The vulnerability created tension and drama. It also required immense skill from the fighter to protect his undefended areas. He hands you the first piece. The graves, or OCREA, for THRAX. These are distinctive. They are two long pieces of shaped bronze or iron that cover your shins all the way up to your knees. They are far taller than the single greave worn by a MU or Milo. You strap them on with leather cords. They are heavy, and immediately, your legs feel sluggish and awkward. Next comes the helmet. It is a magnificent and terrifying object. It is a full-head bronze helmet with a wide brim, a grilled faceplate for vision, and, most iconically, a griffin head crest on top. The griffin, a mythological beast, was a symbol associated with Nemesis, the goddess of revenge and divine retribution, a deity who had a small shrine at every amphitheater. You are, quite literally, being asked to wear the visage of fate. The trainer helps you put it on. The moment the helmet slides over your head, your world transforms. The weight is immense, pressing down on your neck and shoulders. Your vision is instantly reduced to a narrow grid of light through the metal grill. You can no longer see your feet or your periphery. To see anything, you have to turn your entire head. Your hearing is muffled, distorted into a cavernous echo. The sound of your own breathing is suddenly loud and dragged inside the confined space. A wave of claustrophobia washes over you. This metal shell is both your protection and your prison. Finally, you are given your shield, the small, square parmula, and your weapon, the curved sika. This time, it is not wood. It is real steel. It is lighter than the training sword, just as the trainer promised. But its edge is sharpened, its point is deadly. Holding a real weapon for the first time is a sobering moment. This is not a game. This is an instrument designed with one purpose. Dressed in your full regalia, you feel ridiculous. You are heavy, half blood, and half deaf. You take a few clumsy steps. The metal greaves clank together. The heavy helmet makes you feel top-heavy and off balance. This is the reality that lurks behind the heroic mosaics. The gear is not empowering. At first, it is debilitating. Your doctor leads you back out into the sunlit courtyard. The other gladiators, the veterans, watch your awkward procession with amusement. They all went through this. It is a rite of passage. Your training now enters a new phase. You must do everything you did before. The lunges, the footwork, the strikes. But now, you must do it all while burdened by this metal shell. You practice just walking, trying to get used to the weight and the restricted vision. You learn to compensate, to rely on instinct and the feel of the ground beneath your feet. You practice striking the palus again. But now you have to account for how the helmet changes your balance and how the shield arm must move with the greaves. Here is a small but crucial detail that historians and experimental archaeologists have focused on. The heat. Fighting in a metal helmet under the Mediterranean sun would have been like wearing an oven on your head. Dehydration and heat exhaustion would have been constant dangers. Part of this training is acclimatization, pushing your body to adapt to performing under these incredibly stressful conditions. There is an ongoing academic discussion about the precise construction of this armor. We have examples from places like Pompeii. But did every ludus have armor of the same quality? A wealthy school in Rome might have had custom-fitted bronze armor made by master craftsmen. A poor, provincial ludus might have used cheaper, ill-fitting iron armor that was passed down from one gladiator to the next. The quality of your gear could literally be a life or death factor. An ill-fitting helmet could slip and blind you at a critical moment. A weak strap on a greave could cause it to fall off, exposing your leg. You spend the rest of the day stumbling around in your new metal skin. It is frustrating, exhausting work. Every muscle aches from the unfamiliar weight. Your neck is screaming from the strain of the helmet. When the horn blows for the evening meal, the trainer finally allows you to take it off. The relief is instantaneous and profound. As the heavy helmet lifts off, the world rushes back in. The sounds, the sights, the cool evening air on your sweaty face. You can breathe again. You look at the pile of bronze and leather on the ground. That is your future. You are no longer just a man. You are a THRAX. And this heavy, suffocating armor is your uniform. Your job, for the foreseeable future, is to turn this prison of metal into a second skin. Your survival depends on it. The awkwardness of the armor slowly begins to fade. The weight of the helmet feels less like a burden and more like a familiar pressure. The clanking of your greaves becomes a natural rhythm to your movements. You have adapted. Now, your training takes its most significant and dangerous step forward. You are finally going to fight another man. These are not fights to the death, or even to first blood. They are supervised sparring sessions, known as pro-LUSIO. They are conducted with blunted or wooden weapons. Under the hypercritical eye of your Dr. Owen Often, the Laniste himself. The goal is not to injure, but to instruct. It is a live-fire drill, a final exam before the real test in the arena. Your opponent is one of the other Thracian apprentices, a man you have trained alongside for weeks. You know his movements, and he knows yours. You both stand in the center of a designated training circle, fully kitted out in your armor. The Dr. Roast ends just outside the circle, holding his long wooden rod. He is the referee and the judge. Begin. He barks. The two of you circle each other, just as you learn it to circle the palace. But this is different. The post does not move. It does not think. It does not look for an opening to kill you. Your opponent does. Through the grill of your helmet, you see his own helmeted face, a terrifying, inhuman mask of bronze. You can hear his muffled breathing, a mirror of your own. The first exchange is clumsy, a flurry of blows against shields. The sound is a dull clatter of wood against wood or blunted metal against bronze. Your heart is pounding, a frantic drum against your ribs. All the solo training, all the hours spent attacking the post, suddenly feel inadequate. The palus never hits back. You try a thrust with your curved sika, an attack your trainer taught you. Your opponent easily blocks it with his Parmula shield. He counters with a shield bash that sends you stumbling backward. Before you can recover your footing, the trainer's rod smacks hard against your back. You were open for a full second. The Dr. O yells. Your feet whirl easy. Again, the fight resumes. It is a grueling, exhausting dance. Every move you make is analyzed. Every mistake is instantly corrected with a sharp word or a sting from the rod. You learn the hard way that a flashy move is a fatal one. You learn that defense is more important than offense. You learn to read the subtle shifts in your opponent's body language. A drop of the shoulder, a change in his footing, to anticipate his next move. This is where the true art of gladiatorial combat is honed. It is not about brute force. It is about timing, distance, and energy conservation. You cannot just flail wildly. You would be exhausted in a minute. You have to be patient, to wait for your opponent to make a mistake, and then exploit it with ruthless efficiency. One of the most interesting and perhaps surprising facts about these sparring sessions, and even the real games, is that they were refined. The trainer in this practice session is playing the part of the sumo Rudies. the senior referee who would officiate in the actual arena. Real gladiatorial bouts were not lawless brawls. They had rules. There were officials on the sand to enforce them, to separate fighters if they got entangled, and to declare a winner. This added a layer of legitimacy and sportsmanship, albeit a very brutal form of it. To the proceedings, here is a peculiar little detail. Sometimes these referees were retired gladiators of great renown. Imagine being a novice in the Colosseum, and the man officiating your life or death struggle is a living legend of the sport, a man whose face is on graffiti all over the city. It must have been an incredibly intimidating experience. The specific rules of these bouts are, of course, a source of much historical speculation. What constituted a foul? How were points, if any, scored? Seneca, the younger, wrote with disgust about the crowd's bloodlust, complaining that they saw any break in the action called by the referee as an annoying interruption. This tells us that officials couldn't halt the fights. Perhaps it was to address an equipment malfunction or to prevent an illegal move. Though what counted as illegal in a death sport is a fascinating question. Did they, as some historians suggest, ban certain types of strikes, like blows to the back? We do not know for sure, but the presence of referees is undeniable. Back in the training yard, your sparring match continues. You are both tiring, your movements becoming slower. Your opponent overextends on a lunge, leaving his side exposed for a split second. This time, you see it. Your training kicks in. You pivot, and your blunted CK thud satisfied G against his ribs. The Dr. O yells hot. That is it, and steps in, tapping you both with his rod. The fight is over. You have won, not by incapacitating your opponent, but by landing a clean, decisive blow. You both stand there, chests heaving, leaning on your shields. You look at your opponent, another man trapped in the same system, and for a moment, there is a flicker of shared understanding, of mutual respect born from a shared, brutal experience. He gives you a slight nod. You nod back. You will do this again and again, day after day, against different opponents. You will learn the styles of the other gladiator types, sparring against a print, a Samu or Milanzan Seku to raise. You will learn how their equipment works, where their blind spots are, and how your Thracian style can defeat them. You are no longer just learning to fight. You are learning to win. The Prolus IO is the final, fiery crucible of your training, burning away the last of the novice and leaving behind the polished, hardened killer the crowds will pay to see. The sparring sessions are a brutal education, and injuries are an inevitable part of the curriculum. Despite the blunted weapons, the force of the blows is real. A misdeedum parry can result in a broken finger. A hard shield bash can dislocate a shoulder. In this world, an injury is more than just pain. It is a terrifying crossroads that can lead to recovery, permanent disability, or worse. One afternoon, during a particularly intense bout with the brawny MU Armillo apprentice, it happens. He lunges, and you attempt to sidestep, but your footwork is clumsy. His wooden gladius, intended for your shoulder, instead comes down hard on your forearm. You feel a sickening crunch, and a bolt of white-hot agony shoots up your arm. You drop your shield and sword, clutching the injured limb. The Dr. O immediately calls a halt to the training. The medicus is summoned. He examines your arm with his usual detached professionalism, his fingers probing the swelling flesh. His diagnosis is grim. A clean break of the ulna. It is not a minor injury. It is a serious one that will require a long time to heal. This is the moment of truth. You are now, temporarily, The liability. You consume food and resources but generate no value. The code. Economic calculus of the lawn comes into sharp focus. What happens next is a matter of pure cost-benefit analysis. You are hauled back to the infirmary, the room of healing and judgment. The medicus sets the bone, a procedure that involves an agonizing wrenching motion that makes you cry out inside your helmet. He then immobilizes your arm with tightly wrapped bandages and wooden splints. The technical skill is undeniable, but as he works, the lawniste himself enters the room. He looks at you, then at your splinted arm, and then at the medicus. He does not speak to you. He speaks about you, as if you were a lame horse. How long? The lawniste asks, his voice flat. 6 weeks for the bone turnip. Another month of light training before he is fit for the sand. The medicus replies. The lawniste is silent for a long moment, his eyes boring into you. You can almost hear the gears turning in his head. 3 months. 3 months of feeding him, housing him, for no return. And even then, will the arm be as strong? Will he favor it? Will he have lost his nerve? This is where the brutality of the system reveals itself most starkly. For a star gladiator, a champion who draws huge crowds, no expense would be spared. He would be given the best care, the best food, and all the time he needed to recover. His potential for future earnings would far outweigh the short-term cost of his convalescence. But for a novice like you, an unproven quantity, the calculation is far more grim. You are a speculative investment that has just gone sour. The lawniste could decide, right here and now, to cut his losses. What cutting his losses entails is a dark and largely unspoken part of the business. Would he simply have you killed? Perhaps. Or he might sell you off at a discount to work in the mines. A death sentence of a different kind. Or, in a particularly cruel twist, he could condemn you to be one of the Noxii, the unarmed criminals who were thralled beasts in the morning shows for cheap entertainment. This is a point of significant contention for historians. The romantic view, fueled by movies, is that the familia gladiatoriae was a brotherhood and they would care for their own. The more cynical, and perhaps realistic, view is that it was a business, and unprofitable assets were liquidated. Some evidence suggests that gladiators had their own burial clubs, paying dues to ensure they would receive a proper burial, not just be dumped in a pit. This implies a degree of solidarity. But a burial club is for the dead. It offers no protection for the living, injured novice. The truth probably lies in a murky middle ground. Perhaps some lawniste were more sentimental than others. Perhaps a Dr. O who saw potential in you might argue on your behalf. He has heart. He might say, he is learning. He is worth the wait. As you lie on the cot, your arm throbbing, the lawniste continues to stare. His face is unreadable. Your entire future hangs on his next words. He runs a hand over his chin, a gesture of calculation. Keep him, he says finally, his voice clipped. But if he is not ready in 3 months, he is gone. He turns and leaves without another word. A wave of profound, dizzying relief washes over you, so intense it almost makes you sick. You have been spared. You have been deemed worth the investment, if only just. The medicus finishes his work and leaves you in the quiet of the infirmary. For the next few weeks, you are a ghost in the ludus. You cannot train. You can only watch. You help with menial tasks you can do with one arm, mending leather straps, cleaning equipment. You see other men suffer injuries. A dislocated knee, a deep gash that becomes infected. Not all of them are as lucky as you. One man, a fellow novice, is simply gone one morning. No one speaks of it. He was a bad investment. Your injury becomes a stark, daily reminder of your precarious existence. You are not a warrior hero. You are a piece of fragile, expensive equipment, and your value is measured only by your ability to function. As your arm slowly, painfully begins to heal, you are filled with a new, desperate resolve. You have to get back on your feet. You have to prove the lawn. Estes' faith in you is not misplaced, because you have now seen, firsthand, the cost of failure. Your arm heals, slowly but surely. The medicus is a master of his craft, and under his care, the bone knits correctly, the splints come off, and you begin the frustrating process of rebuilding your strength, starting with simple exercises and gradually working your way back to holding a shield and a wooden sword. Throughout this recovery, and indeed throughout your entire time in the ludus, your diet remains unchanged. Morning and night, you are served the same meal, the seg in a gladiator rum. Use it in the mess hall, your bowl filled with the familiar, steaming gray mush of barley and beans. By now, the taste, or lack thereof, is no longer a shock. It is simply a fact of life. You eat it without thought, shoveling it down to silence the ache in your stomach and fuel your recovering body. But tonight, as you watch the other gladiators eating, you begin to truly understand the science and strategy behind this monotonous meal. You are not just eating porridge. You are building armor. This is the famous barley men's supper, a diet so integral to your profession that it gave you your nickname. Pottery, the barley man. The high carbohydrate, low protein regimen seems completely at odds with modern athletic nutrition, whereas the lean meat, the fish, the eggs. Roman society was not vegetarian. Meat was available, especially for the wealthy. The choice to feed you this way was deliberate and calculated. The primary goal, as you have learned, was to create a layer of subcutaneous fat. You look at the veterans in the hall. They are not chiseled like marble statues. They are powerful, yes, but their musculature is often softened by a visible layer of fat. This padding was a crucial defensive layer. In the arena, a shallow cut from an opponent's blade would slice into this fatty tissue. It would bleed spectacularly, which the crowd loved, but it would not sever a crucial muscle or tendon. It was a buffer zone, a biological shield that could absorb superficial damage and keep you in the fight. A shredded gladiator might look more heroic in a sculpture, but a plump one was harder to disable. This is a well-established fact, confirmed by science. Analysis of gladiator bones from a 2nd century burial ground in Ephesus, Turkey, has provided a stunningly clear picture of your diet. The study, led by researchers from the Medical University of Vienna, measured the elemental composition of the bones. They found extremely high levels of strontium and very low levels of zinc. In simple terms, high zinc levels are associated with a diet rich in meat. High strontium levels, which are absorbed from the soil by plants, point to a nearly exclusive vegetarian diet. The bones of the gladiators had strontium levels more than twice as high as the average inhabitant of Ephesus. The science confirms the ancient texts. You really are a barley man. But there is a fascinating, unslightly quirky detail to this diet. That same bone analysis revealed another truth. Gladiators had remarkably strong and dense bones, suggesting they were getting plenty of calcium. But where was it coming from in a diet devoid of dairy? Roman writers like Pliny the Elder provide the answer, describing a post-meal health drink consumed by gladiators. It was a foul-tasting brew of plant ash and vinegar. The ash, being burnt plant matter, was a concentrated source of minerals, including calcium. The acidic vinegar would help leach the calcium from the ash, making it easier for the body to absorb. So, after you finish your bland bowl of barley mush, you are given a cup of this gritty, sour concoction. It is like drinking liquid chalk mixed with cheap wine, but you down it without complaint. It is your mineral supplement, your ancient recovery formula, designed to make your skeleton more resilient to the fractures and trauma of combat. Your Lonistay is not just fattening you up. He is fortifying you from the inside out. The full picture of the gladiator's diet is a testament to the sophisticated, if brutal, sports science of the Roman era. It was a system perfected through generations of trial and error. But what historians still debate is the psychological effect of this diet. Did you and your fellow gladiators resent this bland, monotonous fare? Did you dream of roasted chicken and savory stews? Or did you accept it as part of the job, understanding its functional benefits? Perhaps it was a mixture of both. A veteran might look at his bowl of Saguenay with a kind of grudging respect, knowing it had helped him survive. A new recruit might see it as just another symbol of his miserable, dehumanized existence. As you scrape the last of the mush from your wooden bowl, you feel the familiar heavy, full sensation in your stomach. It is not a pleasant feeling of satisfaction, but a dense, fuel-like fullness. You are a high-performance machine, and this is your low-grade, high-efficiency fuel. You have been repaired, and now you are being refueled. Every aspect of your existence in this ludus, from the way you train to the way you eat, is being fine-tuned for a single purpose: to perform on the sand. Your body is not your own. It is a project, managed and maintained by the Lonistay, and the barley gruel is his primary building material. Your arm is finally strong enough for full training. You are back in the thick of it, sparring in your heavy THRAX gear. The awkwardness now replaced by a hard-won familiarity. You are no longer just a man in a helmet. You are a gladiator. And with this new identity comes a strange and contradictory legal status that governs your entire existence. Infirmier. One evening, after the meal, one of the older veterans, a man who has earned the rudies and now serves as a trainer, sits with a group of you novices. He does not lecture often, but when he does, everyone listens. Tonight's topic is not about a new fighting technique, but about your place in the world. You think you are famous? He asks, his voice a low gravelly rumble. Maybe you will be, but you are also nothing. Remember that. He explains the concept of infamia. It is a legal term in Roman law, meaning disgrace or loss of standing. It was not a punishment for a specific crime, but a condition applied to certain professions that were considered morally suspect. Actors, prostitutes, pimps, and, of course, gladiators. To be branded with infamia meant you lost most of your rights as a Roman citizen. You could not vote. You could not hold public office. You could not represent yourself in court. Your testimony was considered unreliable. In the eyes of the law, you were little more than a slave. You were socially dead. This is the ultimate paradox of your life. You are training to become a celebrity, a figure of public adoration, whose image might one day be scribbled on walls or molded onto pottery. Yet, at the same time, you are legally unsocially an outcast, lumped in with the most reviled members of society. You are simultaneously adored and despised. As you owned a pariah, this legal status was absolute. When you entered the ludus, you signed a contract, or had one signed for you. In this contract, the octoramento, you swore an oath to endure burning, bondage, and death by the sword. You effectively surrendered your body and your legal personhood to the Lonistay. You became his property. to be used, rented, or sold as he saw fit. Here is a particularly strange detail about this status. Even a volunteer, a free man who chose the life of a gladiator to pay off debts or seek glory, was subject to infamia. He would sign the contract, take the oath, and willingly surrender his civic rights. It was a conscious decision to step outside the bounds of respectable society in exchange for a chance at fame and fortune in the arena. These volunteers were a minority, but they existed, and they highlight the strange allure of this life. As the veteran trainer speaks, you look around at the men in the barracks. Some, like you, were forced into this life as prisoners or criminals. Others may have chosen it, but inside these walls, it makes no difference. You are all infames, the infamous ones. You belong to a tribe of outcasts. This concept of infamia is well documented in Roman legal texts and the writings of the elite. Cicero, Seneca, Tacitus. They all write about gladiators with a mixture of fascination and contempt. They were disgusted by the bloodshed, but also acknowledged the gladiators' courage and discipline. They saw you as a necessary evil, a tool for maintaining public order and morale, but not someone they would ever invite to dinner. The historical debate here is not about whether infamia existed, but about how it was experienced by the gladiators themselves and perceived by the common people. Did you feel the shame of your legal status every day? Or was it an abstract legal concept that had little bearing on your daily reality of training and survival? For the common Roman citizen, the plebeian who screamed your name in the Colosseum, did your infamy matter? Or was he just a fan, cheering for his favorite sports hero? The evidence suggests that for the average person, the celebrity aspect far outweighed the legal one. They did not care about your standing in the eyes of the law. They cared about your skill, your courage, your virtus. They would bet on you, name their children after you, and buy lamps with your face on them. You were a superstar of the masses, even as you were scum to the senators. The veteran Rainer finishes his lesson with a grim warning. Never forget what you are, he says, his eyes scanning your faces. The same man who cheers for you in the arena would spit on you in the street. Your fame is real, but it is conditional. It exists only on the sand. Outside of it, you are nothing. The only thing that matters is the next fight. The only thing that can save you is your own skill. He gets up and walks away, leaving his words to hang in the heavy air of the barracks. You lie back on your straw pallet, the concept of infamy settling into your mind. It is another layer of the bizarre, contradictory world you now inhabit. You are a living ghost, a celebrated corpse. Your life has value only in the context of a spectacular death. The roar of the crowd is the only applause you will ever know, and it comes at the price of your very humanity. You are legally infamous, and yet you are on the path to becoming famous. It is a paradox you will have to learn to live with. Months have passed since you first stumbled out of that cart and into the ludus. You are no longer the soft, terrified novice. You are a machine of conditioned reflexes, your body a hardened weapon, your mind focused on the deadly geometry of combat. Your name, your new one, the one the Lawneste gave you, is beginning to be spoken with a measure of respect among the other gladiators. You have survived. And now, something new begins to happen. Faintly, from beyond the high stone walls of your prison, you begin to hear the echoes of your own existence. Your world, for so long confined to this compound, is starting to leak out into the city. It starts subtly. A new slave, assigned to work in the kitchens, sees you in the courtyard and his eyes go wide with recognition. He whispers your name, Corvus, to another slave. You have a reputation. even within the city's underclass. Tales of the near promising THRAX at the local ludus have begun to circulate. Then, one of the trainers brings back news from a trip into town. He mentions seeing graffiti on a tavern wall. It is a crude drawing of a THRAX fighting a Murmillo, and beneath it are names. Your name, Corvus versus Ferrix. Who wins? People are already speculating about you, creating fantasy matchups. They are placing small bets with local bookies. You have not yet set foot in the arena, but you are already a character in the city's ongoing sports drama. This is the strange, disembodied nature of gladiator fame. It is a powerful force, but one that you experience only secondhand. You are the subject of intense public fascination, but you are completely isolated from your own fans. You are a ghost in the machine of your own celebrity. The archaeological evidence for this is overwhelming and delightful. In Pompeii, preserved by the ash of Vesuvius, we have found countless examples of this gladiator fandom. Graffiti on walls proclaimed "So Addus the Thracian makes all the girls sigh," or details the fight record of a local champion. Octus, 50 fights, 40 wins. This was not just idle chatter. It was a public record, a testament to the gladiator's career, like the stats on the back of a modern baseball card. And the fame was not limited to graffiti. Your image could end up on surprisingly common household objects. Archaeologists have found hundreds of small, cheap clay oil lamps decorated with scenes of gladiatorial combat. A family might light their evening meal by the flickering image of a man in your exact armor type. Children played with gladiator action figures, small figurines made of clay or lead. You were a brand. You were merchandise. Your likeness, or at least the likeness of your professional class, was a part of daily life. The honest is, of course, well aware of this. He cultivates it. It is part of his business model. Before a major set of games, he will leak stories to the public about his best fighters. He will talk up your speed, your ferocity, your unbreakable spirit. He is creating hype. The more the public is invested in you, the more they will clamor to see you fight. The more they clamor, the higher the price he can charge the editor who is sponsoring the games. You are not just a fighter. You are a promotional tool. What is still debated by historians is how much the individual gladiator participated in or was aware of their own marketing. Did the Laniste tell you about the graffiti? Did he show you an oil lamp bearing your image? Or did he keep you deliberately isolated from it, to keep you hungry and focused? The latter seems more likely. A gladiator with an overinflated ego might become complacent or demanding. It was better for the Laniste to keep you in the dark, a blank slate upon which he and the public could project their own narratives. One day, you see the most concrete evidence of your growing fame. A wealthy-looking man, an editor planning upcoming games, is visiting the ludus to inspect the talent. He is accompanied by the Laniste, who is giving him the grand tour. They watch you spar, and the Laniste points you out. That one is Corvus, he says, his voice full of pride and salesmanship. The fastest THRAX I have trained in a decade. The crowd will love him. The editor looks you over, his expression the same as the longest as on your first day. Cold, appraising, calculating. He is not looking at a person. He is looking at a potential highlight for his show, a name for the posters he will plaster all over the city. Later, the horn blows for the end of the training day. As you head back to the barracks, you feel a strange mixture of pride and dread. The roar from outside the walls is getting louder. People know your name. They have expectations. You are no longer just fighting for your survival within the ludus. You are now carrying the weight of public anticipation. The transition is almost complete. You have been forged into a weapon, and now that weapon is being advertised. Soon, the time will come for it to be used. The roar from outside the walls is not just the sound of public speculation. It carries a different, more personal and far stranger echo. Your status as an infamies, an outcast, places you in a bizarre social gray area. You are legally filth. But, in the eyes of many, you are also an object of intense, almost forbidden, desire. You are a hated celebrity, and secretly, a sought-after lover. This paradox is one of the most fascinating, unscandalous aspects of your life. The same Roman society that legally scorned you also fetishized your strength, your danger, and your proximity to death. You represent a raw, primal masculinity that was both terrifying and deeply attractive to the highly civilized, structured world of Rome. The evidence for this is whispered in the poetry of Juvenal and Martial, who wrote scathing satires about aristocratic Roman women, or matronae, who became infatuated with gladiators. They would mock these women for slumming it, for throwing away their dignity for a brute from the arena. One of Juvenal's most famous lines sneers at a senator's wife, Turpiae, who abandoned her family to run off to Egypt with her gladiator lover, describing him as rough, scarred, and far from handsome. Juvenal's point was that she was attracted not to his beauty, but to his brutal profession itself. The sword was the aphrodisiac. You begin to see hints of this strange obsession. Sometimes, wealthy women visit the ludus under the pretense of accompanying their husbands, the editors who are shopping for fighters. But their gaze lingers on the training yards. Through the grill of your helmet, you see them watching. Their expressions a mixture of fear and fascination. They are looking at you not as an athlete, but as something far more primal. The veteran reigner, the one who earned his freedom, explains this phenomenon with cynical clarity. They do not see you. He tells you one evening. They see a fantasy. They live lives of boring, predictable luxury. We are the opposite of that. We are dangerous. We are temporary. That is what they desire. And this desire was not always from a distance. A particularly successful and famous gladiator could become the secret lover of a wealthy patroness. The lawn is Te, ever the pragmatist, might even facilitate such an arrangement for a steep price. Of course, it was another revenue stream. The gladiator's body, his time, his very presence, were all commodities to be sold. Here is a quirky and rather specific detail that adds a layer of grime to this picture. Some ancient sources claim that the sweat of a gladiator was considered a powerful cosmetic. It would be scraped off the fighter's skin with a tool called a strigil, bottled in small vials, and sold to women as a kind of high-end, magical face cream. The idea was that this essence, captured from a vessel of ultimate masculinity and courage, could enhance their own beauty. Whether this was a common practice or an exaggerated slander is debated by historians. But the very existence of the story tells you everything you need to know about the strange cult of the gladiator body. The debate among academics on this topic is lively. Were these affairs common, or were they rare? Scandalous exceptions that were blown out of proportion by satirists looking for an easy target. Some historians argue that the rigid social structures and the gladiators' constant confinement would have made such liaisons nearly impossible. Others argue that where there is money and desire, a way is always found, and that the Lanistae were businessmen, not moral guardians. They would have seen it as a high-risk, high-reward side business. You, as a still unproven fighter, are not yet the object of such specific, high-level attention, but you are part of the world that inspires it. You represent the fantasy, Perhaps a wealthy woman's gaze falls on you during a training session. Perhaps she mentions your name to her husband. The editor. That one. The THRAX. Chorus. He looks spirited. It is a small comment, but it can have huge consequences. It might be the very thing that convinces the editor to book you for his games. Your perceived desirability could be the deciding factor in your career and your fate. This strange contradiction defines your social existence. You are at the very bottom of the legal ladder, yet you occupy a space at the peak of public fantasy. You are reviled by the moralists and desired by the thrill-seekers. You are a walking embodiment of the Roman subconscious, a mix of discipline and barbarity, courage and disgrace. You are a monster, a hero, a slave, and a sex symbol, all at once, lying in your cell at night. You ponder this. It is another layer of unreality in a life that has become increasingly surreal. The world outside these walls sees you not as a person, but as a symbol of brutal athletic prowess for the men in the stands, and a symbol of forbidden, dangerous desire for others. Both views are a fiction. Both ignore the reality of your life, the constant fear, the monotonous diet, the aching muscles. You are just a man trying to survive. But to the world, you are an idea. And that idea is both profitable and, it turns out, strangely seductive. Your reputation, fueled by the lawnist as heightened the whispers of the fans, has grown to a point where it has tangible value. And the lawnist, being the savvy businessman he is, knows how to monetize every aspect of his property. Long before you are booked for the grand spectacle of the amphitheater, you may find yourself being rented out for a far more intimate and, in some ways, more humiliating purpose. One afternoon, your Dr. O informs you that you and two other promising gladiators have a special assignment that evening. You are not told what it is. You are simply ordered to be clean, oiled, and dressed in your full, polished armor. Not your training gear, but the real, gleaming bronze and steel. As dusk falls, a closed carriage arrives at the ludus. You and the other two men, flanked by guards from the school, are loaded into it. The carriage ride is short and tense. You have no idea where you are going or why. The claustrophobia of the helmet feels even more intense now, cut off from any familiar context. The carriage stops, and you are ushered out and into the courtyard of a massive private villa. It is a world of obscene luxury you have never seen before. Marble statues line the walkways, fountains tinkle in the gardens, and the air is filled with the scent of expensive perfume and roasting meat. You are led into the main dining hall, the triclinium. The room is at a blow of Roman excess. Wealthy aristocrats, men and women, are reclining on couches around a low table laden with a feast that makes your stomach ache with longing. Roasted birds, exotic fish, piles of fruit, and endless flagons of wine. The light from 100 oil lamps gleams off their jewelry and fine silk robes. And then you realize why you are here. You are the evening's entertainment. The host, a wealthy politician looking to impress his guests, has hired you out from the lawn as stay for the night. You are not here to fight. You are here to be looked at. You are a piece of living decoration, a status symbol, a party favor. You are ordered to take up a position against the wall, standing at attention, perfectly still, like a statue. Your job is to look menacing and powerful, to add a frisson of danger and spectacle to the dinner party. The guests stare at you. Their conversation buzz it. They point at your armor, comment on your physique, and speculate about your prowess. You are an objective discussion, no different from the ornate vase in the corner or the expensive mosaic on the floor. This practice of being rented out for private events is a lesser-known but historically plausible aspect of a gladiator's life. While the grand public games were the main event, the assets of a ludus could be leveraged in other ways. A powerful man might hire gladiators as intimidating bodyguards for a journey. A host might, as in your case, use them to add an element of authentic spectacle to a private party. It was a way for the honest to make extra income and for the wealthy to flaunt their connections and their daring. It is a deeply humiliating experience. You are a trained killer, a professional athlete, and you are being used as a prop. The smell of the rich food is a form of torture, a reminder of the bland barley gruel that awaits you back at the ludus. The guests, drunk on wine, become bolder. One might approach you, walking around you as if inspecting a horse, even daring to touch the cold bronze of your helmet. You are under strict orders not to move, not to speak, not to react in any way. You must be a silent, terrifying mannequin. The historical debate around this is one of degree. How common was this practice? Was it reserved for only the most famous champions? Or were promising novices like you also used in this way? The logic suggests it would be a common practice. It was low risk for the honest. No danger of his asset being damaged in a fight, and pure profit. For the host, it was the ultimate display of conspicuous consumption, showing he had the wealth and influence to literally rent the stars of the arena for his own amusement. A particularly strange and specific version of this was the hiring of gladiators to officiate at a dinner party. A text called the San Trim Alki on his Trim Alkio's dinner, part of a larger satirical Roman novel, describes a ridiculously ostentatious host who has his courses carved and served by gladiators. The carver, dressed as a specific gladiator type, would theatrically slice the meat with fighting gestures. This was considered the height of tacky, new money excess. But the fact that the satirist wrote about it suggests it was a recognizable, if absurd, phenomenon. Hours pass. You stand there, your muscles screaming from the strain of holding a rigid pose in heavy armor. Finally, the party begins to wind down. The host, pleased with the impression he has made, pays your guard. You are then herded back into the closed carriage and return to the familiar austerity of the ludus. As you strip off the heavy armor, the profound sense of shame and anger washes over you. This was a different kind of degradation. It was not the physical pain of training or the fear of a fight. It was the cold, clinical humiliation of being reduced to an object, a toy for the rich. It reinforces the lesson of your infamy in the most direct way possible. Your fame, your skill, your very being, it is all for sale, in ways you are only just beginning to understand. You are not a hero. You are a rental. The days of training, the rented humiliation at the dinner party, the whispers of your growing fame. It has all been a prelude. The moment has finally arrived. The editor who inspected you weeks ago has made his selection. The posters have been plastered around the city. Your name, Corvus the Thrax, is on the bill. You are scheduled to fight in the upcoming Monera, the gladiatorial games. Your first fight. Everything in your life has been building to this. The news settles over the ludus like a heavy shroud. There is a new tension in the air. You are now a man with a deadline. The night before the games, a special ritual takes place. It is called the Cena Libera, the free dinner. It is, for all intents and purposes, the Last Supper. You and all the other gladiators scheduled to fight the next day are led from the ludus under heavy guard. You are taken not to a private villa, but to a public hall. The hall is open. and a large crowd has gathered to watch. This is not a private affair. It is a public spectacle, the final piece of pregame promotion. Inside, the tables are laden with a feast that dwarfs the one you witnessed at the politician's villa. For the first time since you entered the ludus, the bland, monotonous saguenay is gone. In its place are all the things you have been denied: roasted meats, rich sauces, fine bread, and, most importantly, wine. You are allowed to eat and drink your fill of anything you want. You sit down at the long table with your fellow condemned. Across from you is the M. You are Milo. You are scheduled to fight tomorrow. His name is Ferrex. You have seen him train. He is strong and skilled. You will try to kill each other in less than 24 hours. Tonight, you share a meal. The absurdity is profound. The atmosphere is surreal. Some gladiators, the stoic veterans, eat methodically, enjoying the fine food, but not gorging themselves. They know they need to be in peak condition tomorrow. Others, perhaps the more fearful or fatalistic, indulge with a desperate intensity, drinking cup after cup of wine, laughing too loudly, trying to forget what awaits them. And all the while, the public watches. They press in at the doorways, peering through the windows. They are the fans, the gamblers, the gruels. They are here to get a final look at the merchandise before the show. They study your physique, trying to gauge your strength and confidence. They are making their final decisions about who to bet on. Look at Chorus. One might whisper, he is barely eating. He has the killer's focus. Another might say, Ferrex is drinking too much. He has lost his nerve. This public feast was a brilliant piece of psychological theater. For the audience, it was a chance to feel intimately connected to the fighters, to see them as human beings one last time before they became symbols of violence in the arena. It heightened the anticipation and the emotional stakes of the following day. For the gladiators, the purpose of the Sina Libera is a subject of historical debate. Was it a genuine act of generosity from the editor? A final good meal for men about to die? This is the romantic interpretation. A more cynical and likely view is that it served multiple purposes. It was great marketing, as mentioned, but it could also be a form of psychological warfare. A man who feasted and drank to excess would be sluggish and hung over the next day, making for a sloppier, and perhaps bloodier, fight. It could also be a test of discipline. The honest and editor would watch closely. The gladiator, who maintained his composure and ate sensibly, was a true professional. The one who fell apart was a liability. A strange and poignant detail, recorded by the historian Plutarch, gives us a glimpse into the mindset of the fighters. He describes attending a Sina Libera and observing the gladiators. He noted that many of them did not just feast, but used the opportunity to give final instructions to their friends, to settle their affairs, and to commend their wives and children to the care of others. Even in this public spectacle, amidst the prying eyes of the ghouls, they found moments for profound and personal goodbyes. They were men acutely aware that this might be their last sunset. You pick at a piece of roasted chicken, the flavor almost shocking after months of barley mush. You drink a little wine, but not too much. You can feel the eyes of the crowd on you, and the gaze of your honesty. You meet the eyes of Ferrex, your opponent, across the table. There is no animosity there, only a shared, grim understanding of your mutual predicament. You are two cogs in the same machine, about to be smashed against each other for the amusement of others. The feast ends. You are herded back to the ludus, your stomach full of rich food for the first time in memory. You are led to a separate, isolated cell. This is where you will spend your last night. There is no sleep. There is only the darkness, the weight of the coming dawn, and the final, terrifying realization that there are no more rehearsals. Tomorrow is real. The morning arrives not with the familiar blast of the training horde, but with a tense, unnerving silence. Today is different. Today is the day of the games. You are woken by a guard, not a trainer. There is no morning conditioning, no practice at the palace. There is only a small, final meal, something light, and the grim process of preparing for the main event. You and the other gladiators who are fighting today are led to the armory. The air is thick with nervous energy. Men check their leather straps, run a whetstone along the edge of their blades, or simply sit in silence, lost in their own thoughts. You polish THRAX armor, the same you wore for that humiliating dinner party, is laid out waiting for you. This time, wearing it feels different. It is not a costume. It is your war skin. Once everyone is armed and armored, the procession begins. You are marched out of the ludus for the last time as an anonymous trainee. You are now part of the pompa, the grand parade that opens the games, lined up in the street outside the amphitheater. The scale of the event hits you for the first time. The city is in a frenzy. The streets are packed with thousands of people, all heading in the same direction. There are food vendors, wine sellers, and bookies shouting odds. The noise is a deafening roar of human excitement. It is a festival, a holiday, and you are one of the main attractions. The Pampa is a magnificent spectacle, designed to whip the crowd into a state of feverish anticipation. It is led by the LIC Therese, the official bodyguards of the sponsoring editor, followed by a group of musicians playing trumpets and horns. Then comes the editor himself, riding in a chariot, waving to the crowd like a conquering hero. He is the star of the show, the man who is giving this gift of bloodshed to the people. And then come you, the gladiators. You march in a long, solemn column, arranged by type, the hulking MUR Millans, the net-wielding radiary, and you, among the ranks of the proud, griff and helmeted THRAESs. You march with your weapons sheathed, your helmets under your arms for now, so the crowd can see your faces. This is a crucial part of the spectacle. The crowd wants to see their heroes up close. They shout your names, the ones they have seen on the posters and in the graffiti. Chorus, Ferrix. They scream. They throw flowers. It is a hero's welcome. But you know the truth. You are not heroes being celebrated. You are cattle being paraded before the slaughter. You are the parade of the damned, a term some historians use to capture the grim reality behind the pageantry. You try to keep your face a mask of cold indifference, the professional warrior's face your trainer taught you to wear. You cannot show fear. Fear is weakness, and the crowd can smell it. You fix your eyes on the back of the man in front of you and just march. The procession enters the amphitheater through one of the main gates. If you are in a provincial town, it might be a stone and wood structure that holds 10 or 20,000 people. If you are in Rome, you are marching into the Colosseum, a mountain of travertine and concrete that holds over 50,000 screaming spectators. The moment you step inside, the noise level skyrockets. It is a physical force, a wall of sound that hits you in the chest. You march once around the perimeter of the arena, the hots and under your feet. You pass the imperial box, where the emperor might be sitting, and the box of the Vestal Virgins. You salute the editor, the man who is paying for your potential death. The traditional salute, Ave Imperator Moritaria te salute and hail. Emperor, those who are about to die salute you, is one of the most famous lines from the ancient world. However, here is a fascinating bit of historical clarification. This famous phrase is only recorded as having been said once. by a group of naval prisoners forced to fight in a mock sea battle on a lake. Not by gladiators in the Colosseum. Suetonius, the historian who recorded it, presents it as a unique, desperate plea from condemned men, not a standard gladiatorial salute. The idea that every gladiator in every fight said this is almost certainly a myth, popularized by movies. But whether you say the words or not, the sentiment hangs in the air. You are here to die for their entertainment. The parade concludes. You are led off the sand and into the dark, cool tunnels that run beneath the stands. The grand procession is over. The public-facing part of your morning is done. Now comes the worst part of all, the waiting. You have been paraded, celebrated, and now you will be stored until it is your turn to perform. The deafening roar of the crowd is now a muffled, ominous thunder from above. Your grand entrance is over, and the grim reality of the day's business is about to begin. The world shrinks from the vast, sun-drenched spectacle of the arena to the narrow, torch-lit gloom of the tunnels beneath it. This subterranean labyrinth is the backstage of the games, a place the cheering crowds above never see. The air is cool and damp, heavy with the smell of sand, sweat, rusted iron, and the pungent, musky scent of wild animals housed nearby. You are led to a holding cell, a small, barred chamber just off the main corridor. It is barely large enough for you and the other THRAX, who is also fighting today. You can hear the muffled roar of the crowd above, a constant, low thunder that vibrates through the stone floor. It is the sound of 50,000 people baying for blood. Your blood. This is the waiting place. And the waiting is a unique form of torment. Your body is primed for combat, coursing with adrenaline, but you are forced into stillness. Your mind, which you have trained to be a cold, calculating machine, is now free to race. You think about your opponent, Ferex TMU or Milo. You run through the fight 1,000 times in your head, picturing his moves, your counters. You think about your training, about the veteran's advice, about the weight of your helmet and the curve of your blade. The day's events unfold in a strict order, and your gladiatorial combat is the main event, a star attraction in the afternoon. But the games run all day, and you are forced to be an auditory witness to the morning's grisly schedule. First come the Venetian-s, the wild beast hunts. You hear the creak of winches and the grinding of stone as cages are lifted from the depths up to the arena floor. Then you hear the roars and snarls of exotic animals. Lions from Africa, bears from Germany, tigers from Parthia. The crowd above erupts with a fresh wave of excitement. You hear the sounds of the hunt, the twang of bowstrings, the whiz of spears, and the terrified, final screams of both animals and the poor souls sent to fight them. The best RE. Next, around midday, when the sun is at its highest and harshest, comes the lull in the respectable entertainment. This is the time for the Meridini, the midday executions. This is the fate you avoided when you broke your arm. You hear the crowds laughing and jeering. There is no sport here, just raw, brutal execution for their amusement. Unarmed criminals, the Noixii, are brought out. Some are thrown to the beasts that are still left in the arena. Others are forced into grotesque mythological reenactments. A man dressed as Orpheus is mauled by a bear. Another, dressed as Icarus, is thrown from a height. The most common method is forced combat, where one unarmed man is given a sword, kills another, and is then disarmed and killed by the next in line, until only one is left to be dispatched by a soldier. The philosopher Seneca described this spectacle with horror. Now all the trifling is put aside and it is pure murder. The men have no defensive armor. They are exposed to blows at all points. and no one ever strikes in vain. In the morning they throw men to the lions and the bears. At noon, they throw them to the spectators. You sit in your cell, listening to the sounds of the state-sanctioned butchery. This is a deliberate psychological tactic. It is a reminder of your place in the Roman world. As a gladiator, you are privileged. You have armor. You have a weapon. You have a chance to fight back and win fame and fortune. You are an elite performer. The sounds from the arena floor are a stark reminder of the alternative. It is a way of saying, be grateful for the honorable death we are offering you. The historical details of what went on in these tunnels are pieced together from the architectural remains of amphitheaters like the Colosseum and from literary accounts. We know there were complex systems of elevators and trapdoors to bring animals and scenery to the arena floor. We know there were holding pens for both beasts and humans. What is debated is the atmosphere among the gladiators themselves. Was it a silent, grim waiting room? Or did men talk, offer advice, or even pray together? Did rivals from different ludi glower at each other in hostile silence? Or was there a shared sense of professional camaraderie in the face of death? One compelling theory is that there was a shrine to Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance and balance, located somewhere in these tunnels. It would have been the last stop for a gladiator before entering the arena. Here, you could make a final prayer or an offering, asking for victory or, if not victory, a swift and honorable end. It was a place to steady your nerves and find a moment of spiritual focus before stepping into the chaos. The sounds of the midday executions finally die down. A period of quiet follows as slaves clean the sand, dragging away the bodies and covering the blood with a fresh layer. The crowd grows restless. They have had their appetizers. They are ready for the main course. A guard appears at your cell door. He unlocks it. It is time, he says. Your heart feels like a stone in your chest. The waiting is over. You rise to your feet, your bronze greaves scraping against the floor. You pick up your helmet. You walk out of the cell and down the long, dark corridor towards a rectangle of blinding, brilliant light. The roar of the crowd, once a muffled thunder, is now a deafening, all-consuming avalanche of sound. Your time has come. You walk down the final stretch of the tunnel. The walls bare and cool on either side. Ahead of you is a ramp leading upwards into a rectangle of overwhelming brightness. The muffled drawer you have been living with for hours intensifies with every step. The sound waves vibrating, not just in your ears, but in your bones. You place the heavy, griff-encrusted helmet over your head, and the world dissolves into a narrow, grilled view and the sound of your own ragged breathing. You take the last few steps up the ramp and emerge from the darkness into the blinding, white-hot glare of the afternoon sun. For a moment, you are completely disoriented. The light, the heat, and the noise are a physical assault on your senses. It is like being born into a world of pure, violent chaos. You are standing on the sand, the legendary, blood-soaked, and of the arena. It is finer than the coarse dirt of the training yard, and it is hot through the soles of your sandals. You can see flecks of what looks like sawdust or shimmering minerals mixed in, designed to help absorb the blood. You take a moment to adjust, your eyes struggling to cope with the brightness after the gloom of the tunnels. Then you look up, and up, and up. Walls of humanity rise on all sides. A dizzying, vertical ocean of faces, colors, and noise. 50,000 people. A screaming, waving, roaring mass of humanity are all staring down at you. You are the absolute focus of every single person in this colossal structure. You have never felt so small and so significant at the same time. The scale of it is beyond anything you could have imagined. This is the Colosseum, or a place just like it. the beating heart of Rome's obsession. The sheer sensory overload is a weapon in itself. It is designed to intimidate and overwhelm. A novice fighter could be defeated before the first blow is even struck. Paralyzed by stage fright on the grandest, most terrifying stage on earth. But your training, the endless repetition, the brutal discipline, it creates a small, quiet space in your mind. You force yourself to block out the noise, to ignore the thousands of staring eyes. You focus on what you know, your stance, your breathing, the feel of the shield on your arm and the hilt of the sika in your hand. Across the vast oval of sand, your opponent, Feryx the Murmillo, emerges from a tunnel on the opposite side. He is a formidable sight in his heavy armor, his large rectangular shield gleaming, his fish-crested helmet hiding his face. He looks just as small as you do in this vast space. You and he are the two tiny focal points in this universe of spectators. A figure in a tunic stands near the center of the arena. This is the Summa Rudis, the senior referee, the same role your doctoro played in the sparring sessions. But this man is a stranger, and his authority is absolute. He is accompanied by an assistant, the Secunda Rudis. They will officiate the bout. The sand itself holds a strange historical significance. The word arena actually means sand in Latin. It was used specifically because of its ability to absorb blood, keeping the footing for the fighters relatively secure. This practical choice of surface gave its name to every arena that followed, a linguistic fossil preserving the bloody purpose of the original. There is a fascinating, though unconfirmed, theory about the sand in Rome's Colosseum. Some speculate that the authorities may have used a special kind of reddish sand, or even mixed it with cinnabar, to help disguise the sheer volume of blood being spilled, making the show more palatable over the course of a long day. This is a point of debate. Was it for aesthetic camouflage or just a regionals and type? But it highlights the level of stage management involved in these spectacles. The editor of the games, sitting in his prominent box, gives a signal. The musicians, who had been silent, blasted dramatic fanfare on their trumpets. This is the signal to begin. You and Feryx walk towards the center of the arena, your footsteps making no sound in the deafening roar. You stop a few paces from each other, your eyes locked on one another through the grills of your helmets. You can see nothing of his expression, nor he of yours. You are two anonymous figures of violence, representing your respective fighting styles. You are the quick, aggressive THRAX. He is the powerful, defensive Murmillo. It is a classic matchup the crowd understands and loves. The referee speaks, but you cannot hear his words over the din. You just see his hand chopped down. The fight has begun. There is no more training, no more waiting, no more theory. There is only this moment. You and the man in front of you. The sand, the sun, in the sound. You raise your shield, grip your curved sword, and take the first step forward. Your life has been distilled to this single, brutal point. Everything you have endured has led you here, to the hot sand, under the gaze of 50,000 strangers who have come to watch you live or die. The fight begins not with a wild clash of steel, but with a cautious, circling dance. The roar of the crowd fades into a dull, background hum as your training takes over. Your world shrinks to the space between you and Feryx. Every lesson from the ludus comes rushing back. Watch his feet, not his eyes. Keep your shield high. Do not waste energy on wide, theatrical swings. Feryx, as a Murmillo, has the advantage in defense. His large scutum can cover most of his body, and his helmet is heavy and protective. Your advantage as a THRAX is speed and your smaller, more maneuverable Parmula shield. Your curved Sika is designed specifically to hook around the edges of a shield like his. It is a classic battle of strategy. The initial moments are a series of probes. He tests your defenses with a few quick thrusts of his gladius, which you easily parry. You feint an attack to his left, trying to draw his shield out of position. But he is a professional. He does not fall for it. The crowd groans, impatient for action. But you and Ferrex are locked in a deadly conversation that only you two understand. This is a crucial point that is oft unlost in cinematic portrayals. Gladiatorial combat was not an unskilled, chaotic brawl. It was a martial art with rules, officials, and highly refined techniques. Assume Rudy's and his assistant circle you both, watching every move with an expert eye. Their presence is a guarantee of a fair fight. By Roman standards, what were these rules? This is a source of great historical debate, as no official rulebook has ever been found. We have to piece it together from artistic depictions, unwritten accounts. It seems clear that fighters were expected to face each other, striking a downed opponent, for instance, was likely forbidden until the referee had made a call. If a fighter's equipment broke or he tripped and fell, the referee could pause the fight to allow him to recover. The crowd might hate the interruption, but it ensured the contest remained one of skill versus skill. A fighter could also signal surrender by dropping his shield and weapon and raising a single finger, the ad digitum gesture. He could appeal for mercy. This was not considered cowardly. It was a tactical admission of defeat. Placing his fate in the hands of the editor and the crowd, the fight escalates. Ferrex, perhaps growing impatient, commits to a heavy shield bash, trying to bull rush you and knock you off balance. You anticipate it, using your agility to sidestep at the last moment. As he stumbles past, you pivot and use your own shield to slam into his exposed back. It is a solid blow, and he grunts, but the referee shouts. You cannot hear the word, but you see his sharp gesture. They fell. A blow to the back is not permitted. He separates you, and the fight resumes. This reveals another fascinating, often overlooked truth. Not every fight was to the death. In fact, especially during the peak of the Empire, most probably were not. Gladiators were incredibly valuable assets. A top-tier fighter was the equivalent of a modern multi-million-dollar racehorse. For a honest day to have his expensive investments killed off in every bout would be an unsustainable business model. For the editor, paying the death fee for every gladiator was prohibitively expensive. Consequently, many fights were to first blood or until one fighter was clearly defeated and surrendered. A fight ending in a stands misses, a standing dismissal, meant both gladiators had fought so bravely and skillfully that they were both allowed to leave the arena alive, their honor intact. This was a huge crowd pleaser, a recognition of supreme athleticism. Of course, death was always a very real possibility. A wound could be accidentally fatal, and if a fighter was clearly outmatched, cowardly, or simply unlucky, the crowd could demand a final end. But the idea that every single match was a fight to the finish is a myth. The system was more nuanced, a complex interplay of sport, business, and ritualized violence. Back on the sand, the battle is reaching its climax. The foul has reset the momentum. You and Ferrex are both tiring. The sun and the heavy armor taking their toll. You see an opening. Ferrex's shield arm is dropping slightly, a sign of fatigue. You launch into a rapid, aggressive combination, a low slash at his leg to draw his shield down, then a high, hooking strike with your Sika aimed at his neck. He blocks the first blow, but the second one is too fast. The curved tip of your steel blade slips over the top of his shield and connects with his shoulder. right at the gap in his armor. It is not a deep cut, but it is clean and undeniable. Blood, startlingly red against his skin, wells up from the wound. He stumbles back, his gladius wavering. The crowd erupts in a singular, deafening roar. The referee steps in instantly, placing his rod between you. The fight is stalled. You have won. The referee's rod between you and Feryx is an impenetrable wall. The fight is over. You stand there, chest heaving, the adrenaline turning into a dizzying tremor in your limbs. You have won. You have landed the decisive blow. But your fate is not yet sealed. Winning the fight and winning your life are two different things. Feryx, clutching his bleeding shoulder, knows he is defeated. He drops his heavy shield and sword onto the sand with a clang. Then, he performs the ultimate act of submission. He raises his left hand, a single finger pointed towards the sky. The ad digitum. He is appealing for his life. Now, the decision passes to the true master of the games. The crowd, in turn, looks to the editor, the wealthy sponsor in his grand box, who will make the final call. The editor's job is to read the will of the people, to grant their wish. His popularity depends on it. You stand in the center of the arena, a victor, but also a spectator to this final, terrible judgment. The roar of the 50,000 subsides into a tense, buzzing murmur. All eyes are on Feryx, the fallen warrior, and on the editor's box. This is the moment of the legendary thumbs up or thumbs down, the palus versa, or turned thumb. It is perhaps the most iconic image associated with the gladiatorial games, seared into our collective consciousness by centuries of art and film. But here is a fascinating and crucial piece of historical correction. We do not actually know for sure what the gestures meant. The common belief is that thumbs up meant life and thumbs down meant death. However, many historians now argue it was likely the other way around, or something different altogether. A thumbs down gesture might have symbolized sticking the sword into the ground, meaning let him go. A thumbs up gesture, pointing towards the throat, might have been a signal for death. Another compelling theory suggests the death signal was the palus presso, a pressed thumb, where the thumb was hidden inside a closed fist, perhaps symbolizing a sheathed sword. A thumb sticking out in any direction might have meant life. The truth is, the exact nature of the gesture is a mystery that scholars are still fiercely debating. The written sources are ambiguous, and the visual depictions are open to interpretation. Whatever the specific gesture is, its meaning is about to be made clear. The crowd begins to make its feelings known. Some, perhaps those who bet on you, are screaming for the final verdict. They want to see the kill. They make their own gestures, their voices joining a chorus of bloodlust. But others are more appreciative of the sport. Feryx fought bravely. He was skilled and strong. He did not run. He did not cower. He provided a good show. Many in the crowd begin to wave handkerchiefs or make their own gestures of approval for him. They are signaling that he has earned the right to live, to fight another day. The editor stands up in his box, soaking in the drama. He lets the tension build, playing the crowd like an instrument. He looks at Feryx, a defeated but proud figure. He looks at you, the victorious but exhausted rookie. He listens to the divided roar of his people. Today, the crowd is in a merciful mood. The prevailing sentiment seems to be that Feryx has earned his life. The editor, a shrewd politician, senses this. He gives a signal. Let us imagine it is a closed fist with thumb pressed down into it. The signal for mercy. Missa. Release. A wave of relief, so profound it almost buckles your knees, washes over you. You will not have to kill this man. Felix, seeing the signal, gives a slow. Solemn nod. He is spared. His Honeste will have to pay for the medicus to patch him up, but he will survive. The referee pats you on the back, a gesture of official victory. Attendants rush onto the sand to help the wounded Felix, escorting him out of the arena towards the same infirmary you know so well. Your first fight is officially over. You have won. You have survived. You are now a victor. You walk towards the editor's box. He tosses you a palm branch, the symbol of victory, and a small, heavy purse of coins, your prize money. It is more money than you have ever held in your life. It is not enough to buy your freedom, not even close, but it is a start. It is tangible proof of your success. As you walk off the sand, the crowd is cheering your name. Corvus, Corvus, Corvus. The sound follows you down the ramp and back into the cool darkness of the tunnels. Just a few hours ago, you walked this path filled with dread and uncertainty. Now you walk it as a proven warrior, a winner, a survivor. You have stepped onto the hots and unfaced the judgment of the crowd, and you have emerged, alive and victorious. The first step on a long and dangerous road is complete. You return to the ludus not as a novice, but as a conqueror. The atmosphere is different. The other gladiators look at you with a new respect. You are no longer just potential. You are proven. You have faced the crowd in the steel, and you have prevailed. Your share of the prize money is immediately handed over to the Honeste. Of course, it goes towards the cost of your upkeep, a down payment on your own life, but a small portion is yours to keep. A taste of the wealth that a successful career can bring. Life settles back into the familiar routine. The pre-dawn hort, the barley gruel, the ambuscading. But your training is different now. You are no longer just practicing. You are preparing for your next opponent. Your victory has only increased your value to the Honeste, and he intends to profit from his investment. You fight again, and again. With each victory, your fame grows. Your name is chanted louder in the amphitheater. The graffiti on the city walls becomes more boastful. The odds on your fights become shorter. You become a veteran. Your body a roadmap of scars. Each one a story of a battle survived. You have seen men die on the sand. You have been the one to grant mercy, and you have had mercy granted to you. You have stood before the editor and the crowd, your fate hanging on the whim of a thumb, more times than you can count. Years pass. The ludus is your whole world. The other gladiators are your family, your rivals, your comrades. You have risen through the ranks to become a primus palus, the top-ranked gladiator of your school. You are a champion, a star, and then, one day, after a particularly grueling but successful career spanning dozens of fights, the ultimate prize becomes a possibility. It is the dream of every man who has ever stepped onto the sand. The one thing more valuable than any purse of gold. Freedom. This was not a common occurrence. Most gladiators died in the arena or from their wounds. Many others were simply never successful enough to be considered for it. But for a select few, the superstars who had consistently won, who had thrilled the crowds for years, and who had survived against all odds, the Honeste and the editor might grant the greatest honor of all, the ludus. The ludus is a simple object. It is a wooden sword, identical to the one you used for your very first training sessions at the palace. But its symbolism is profound. It is a token of retirement. To be awarded the ludus meant your contract was fulfilled. Your oath to face death was rescinded. You were no longer a gladiator. You were a free man. The ceremony is a momentous occasion, often taking place in the arena itself. After a final, victorious fight, the editor of the games, in an act of supreme magnanimity that will be spoken of for weeks, calls you forward. The crowd, knowing what is about to happen, holds its breath. You have been their hero for years, and they are about to witness your ascension. You stand before him, battered and bleeding from your latest victory. He makes a speech, praising your courage, your skill, your years of service to the games. And then, he presents you with a small wooden sword. You take it in your hand. It feels impossibly light. This simple piece of wood is the key that unlocks your shackles. It is your release from infamy. Legally, you are a person again. You can walk out of the amphitheater, not through the tunnels of the damned, but through the main gates. As a citizen, the historical evidence for the Rudis is solid. We have funerary inscriptions commissioned by retired gladiators that proudly mention their status as a Rudiarius. One famous tombstone for a gladiator named Flamme details his incredible career. He fought 34 times, 121, fought to a draw 9 times, and was granted mercy 4 times. Crucially, it notes that he was awarded the Rudis 4 separate times, but he refused it, choosing to continue fighting. This is a mind-boggling detail. Why would a man refuse freedom? Was the fame, the adrenaline, the life in the ludus so ingrained in him that he could not imagine a life outside of it? It is a question that historians still debate. A testament to the powerful and perhaps addictive psychology of the arena. Was the granting of the Rudis a purely sentimental act? Almost certainly not. It was, like everything else, good business, freeing a beloved, aging champion was a huge PR victory for an editor. It showed his generosity and his respect for the sport. It also made logical sense for the Laniste. An aging gladiator was a depreciating asset with a higher risk of being killed, resulting in a total loss. Freeing him was a way to cash out his career on a high note, turning him into a legend whose story would attract new, hopeful recruits to the ludus. You hold the wooden sword, the symbol of your new life, and the roar of the crowd is the loudest you have ever heard. They are not cheering for a kill. They are cheering for a life. Your life. You raise the Rudis high in the air. A final salute to the thousands of people who have watched your brutal, bloody, and ultimately successful journey. You turn your back on the sand for the last time and walk away. A free man. The heaviest weight has been lifted. The question is, what do you do now? You walk out of the amphitheater and into the bustling streets of the city. The noise is no longer a distant roar from above, but the immediate, chaotic sound of daily life. For the first time in years, there are no guards flanking you, no walls to return to. The Rudis in your hand is a pass to a world you had long forgotten. You are a Rudiarius, a freedman. But what does that actually mean? Your future is a vast, terrifying, and uncertain landscape. The paradox of your existence has followed you out of the arena. You are free, but you are also indelibly marked by your past. The first challenge is money. You may have earned significant prize money over your career, but most of it went to the Laniste. What you have saved is a small nest egg, enough to live on for a while, but not enough for a life of leisure. You need to find a new trade. But what trade is open to you? Your entire adult life has been dedicated to a single, highly specialized, and now useless skill. You know how to fight as a THRAX. This is not a transferable skill for a life in a peaceful Roman city. You are, in a sense, a weapon that has been decommissioned. Furthermore, the stigma of infamy does not just wash away with the granting of the Rudis. While your legal rights may be restored, your social standing is forever tainted. The senators and aristocrats will always see you as the brute from the arena. Respectable society will likely shun you. You are a celebrity of the gutter, and your fame is a double-edged sword. People might recognize you on the street, point, and whisper, but would they trust you enough to do business with you? Some freed gladiators managed to leverage their fame and expertise. The most common path was to return to the only world you knew. You might be hired by your old ludus, or a rival one, to become a trainer, a doctor. You would be the veteran who teaches the novices, who corrects their stance at the palus, who referees the sparring sessions. You would be the man with the scarred face in the barracks, telling stories and dispensing cynical wisdom. It is a respectable position within the gladiatorial world, and a natural fit for your skills. Another option was to become a bodyguard. Wealthy politicians or merchants, impressed by your reputation for toughness, might hire you for private security. Your fearsome appearance and famous name would be a powerful deterrent to any would-be trouble. It is a life still adjacent to violence, but on the defensive side of it. The historical evidence for the lives of retired gladiators is sparse, making this a ripe area for academic speculation. We have their tombstones, which tell us they lived long enough to retire, get married, and have children. These inscriptions are often proud, listing their victories and their gladiator type. They clearly did not hide their past. For example, the tombstone of a Rudiarius named Euarbeicus declares that he advises all aspiring fighters to kill the man who has fallen. A chilling piece of professional advice from beyond the grave. This suggests they formed a unique subculture of men who had survived the impossible. But there is a darker, sadder side to this retirement. What about the physical toll? Years of combat would have left you with chronic injuries, arthritis, old fractures that ache in the cold, the constant ringing in your ears from blows to the head. You might suffer from what we would now call post-traumatic stress, haunted by the faces of the men you fought in the roar of the crowd. There was no concept of therapy, no support system for the psychological wounds of the arena. One of the most debated questions is whether a Rudiarius could ever truly escape his past. The story of Flamme, the gladiator who refused the Rudis for times, suggests that for some, the identity of gladiator was more powerful than the promise of a quiet life. Perhaps the structured, high-stakes world of the ludus was preferable to the ambiguous challenges of freedom. Perhaps they were addicted to the roar of the crowd. You stand at a crossroads in the city. The sun is setting, casting long shadows. The sounds of merchants closing their shops and families heading home for dinner surround you. It is a world that has gone on without you for years. You look at the rudies in your hand, this simple symbol of a life you won back. And then you look at your scarred hands, the hands of a killer. You are free, but the sand of the arena is in your soul. You will never truly wash it out. Your greatest victory was surviving the games. Your greatest challenge, surviving the peace, is just beginning. And so, our journey through your life as a gladiator comes to an end. We have walked the path from the despair of the slave cart to the terror and triumph of the arena, and finally, to the uncertain quiet of freedom. It was a life of brutal contradictions, governed by the cold logic of business and the hot-blooded demands of the crowd. A life that was simultaneously despised and adored, disciplined and savage. As you drift off now, perhaps you can leave the noise of the Colosseum behind. Let the roar of the crowd fade into a gentle hum, like a distant wind. The training is over. The fight is won, and the heavy helmet has been lifted for the last time. There is no more sand, no more steel. There is only the quiet darkness, and the well-earned peace that comes after a long and difficult struggle. The story is over. It is time to rest.